Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Hey, we are 1 day away from the weekend, and then we are 1 week from Christmas. We are getting ready for the holiday season. Let us go jingling all the way tonight as Bob Davis is here, PhD, with Linda Noyes and Science Bob McGwier, as they are all here. We're going to be talking consciousness. We're going to be talking NDEs, OBEs, what the mind has to say. Gosh darn, we are in for a night of high-quality woo tonight, people. High-quality woo. Let's say hello to everyone in the audience tonight. We got Jeffrey DeRuin, our train master, in the gold medal position. Race fan takes home the silver. Gorgeous Cosmic Fluor with the bronze. Hi, Nicola. Hey, Andrew. How you doing, buddy? Smithy, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate your love and support of this show, man. Thank you so much for your help. The Super Chat is a good way to support what we do on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. Hello, awesome Arlene. Black Dragon, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. We love our veterans around here. You always have a safe home with us. Stunning Steph Dickey. Spacey Tree, after 5 weeks, makes a remarkable return. And Ian McFadden, Josh S., how you doing? And let's roll down. Oh, there's lovely LaDonna right there saying, hello, Dave. Well, hello, LaDonna. How are you? Millennium, nice to have you here, buddy. Thank you for coming on in. Todd Purdon, good to see you. Awesome Ann Palmer, there she is. Give us a wave. We always wave back. See? Right there. All right, Noble Patrick, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on in. Luscious Jules, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, it's one of our favorite times of the night. Richard Elmore, Mr. Lurks-a-Lot. Mr. Lurks-a-Lot, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Xochitl Paez, looking gorgeous with her lovely dark locks. She'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. Moving on here with roll call, we have Spooky Morales, Gorgeous Helena, Nightmare, Jane Creek, welcome to our channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. Triple M, Mr. Man, Mister, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. As we continue on, there's the Gorgeous Oracles and Beyond. Body Technician, good morning in the UK to you. Triple Ack, nice to have you here, my friend. The stunning Pinzer Flactum has returned. Yes, she has. JJ Lancy, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's channel. Thank you so much for joining us. Please hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Project Blue Book, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Goober Bear, nice to have you back. The gorgeous and talented Kara McIver. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. She's in Saskatchewan. Everyone in North America can see her. She will wave back if you wave towards her. All right, Trippy Times. Josh Casey, how you doing? Chillin' Villain, nice to see you. As we continue on here with roll call, Jeff Steve Garvey, what's happening, man? Thanks for joining us as we continue on. Thomas Fessler, how you doing, buddy? Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And if you caught Thomas's show right before this one, you caught a very, very good show tonight. Gorgeous Larry, thank you for joining us. Science Bob, thank you so much for the super chat. Really do appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk to you in just a couple of seconds here. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Cosmic Catalyst, how are you? Welcome to our channel. Thank you for joining us. Banner Smith, good to have you here as we continue on. The stunning Pam McSee, thanks for joining us. As we continue on with roll call, we are running out of time. Eva, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Bob, I'm going to get you to move your phone away from your microphone if you don't mind. Thank you so much. Knucker, nice to have you here. The Michael Leger, everyone. The Michael Leger. Digger Dog, Vash the Impaler, nice to have you here. And Thomas, I didn't, maybe you didn't do a show. I didn't check in tonight. I did not check in, to be absolutely honest. I didn't have time. I've been in a rush beforehand. All right, remember, you can check out all of our swag on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We can check it on out. We're going to have a fantastic show for each and every one of you tonight. We'll take your questions in hour number 2. Don't forget to put them in capital letters. And let's get the radio side started. And we're 5 seconds away from launching this rocket of woo tonight. Do me the favor, horns up, let's rock. From the mountains of snowy central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are going deep, deep, deep into the human consciousness tonight as Dr. Bob Davis has decided to join us and break down a lot of what is going on, which we may not understand. What are we not understanding? Well, he is an internationally recognized scientist in this field after receiving his doctorate in 1981. He's conducted research, taught, and was an administrator for the State University of New York for over 30 years. He has spoken about scientific research on the effects of toxic stimuli on the brain and sensory systems in venues that vary from national and international scientific conferences, and he has published over 60 articles in scholarly journals. He has also written about human consciousness and the potential that it creates for the mind and humanity. He has written 3 books: The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe? Yes, you should, Dr. Bob. Life After Death, An Analysis of Evidence. Yes, you should believe that too. And Unseen Forces, The Integration of Science, Reality, and You. And we're going to get into a great conversation with him tonight. Also joining us is Science Bob McGwier and experiencer Linda Noyes. Bob Davis, how you doing?
Oh, it's I'm doing well, and if I may say, the answer to all your questions is a resounding yes.
Yes.
So
I'm 1 for 1 tonight. 1 for 1. Good to see you guys. And Science Bob, I know there's a little snafu in our schedule. We originally last week for Science Bob and Friends had Dr. Davis scheduled, but he was like, no, I'm on the show next week, man. And it kind of got snafu'd. So I apologize to you for that, my friend, but we're glad you're here. And I know you wanted to attend this one.
Oh, we're going to be good. We had a great time discussing the NDAA and the UFOs. And now we've got Dr. Bob Davis and Linda to tell us about all sorts of stuff they've gotten their hands into. And ooh, those hands are so far in, they're burning.
Dr. Bob Davis, I want to start off with you tonight because, you are a big focus of what we're going to be talking about tonight. As a scientist and someone who is about the facts and where the evidence takes it, when did you decide that you wanted to go down this other road, which is a bone of contention with many of your colleagues?
well, I don't know if it was me who made that final decision, but obviously I did. I was always left-brained, read almanac books, played chess as a kid, you know what I mean? And then I struggled after I had 3 experiences after I retired. In a sense that it rocked my world and made me question reality and the scientific method, let alone Newtonian principles. You see 2 UFOs, you have a shared death experience, and you have a remarkable spiritual experience it's ineffable in nature. And you write books on the topic, you research it. You can't help but not try to figure out what's going on after the cork's out of the bottle. So it took me a while to talk about just this. And you see, it's a stigma. And but the only way to get this information out, I guess, is through a documentary. Who reads books? Or at least my books these days. So that's why I'm working with Dave Beaty, and the Noyes is joining us too. And it's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Dr. Davis, I'm going to get you to introduce Linda Noyes, and how does she play a role in this phenomena with you in your studies?
Well, she provides a unique subjective issue. She's an experiencer on many levels, and she represents one piece of this extraordinary puzzle, this subjective one, and that's where we lack understanding the science of the subjective. We're far from that, let alone far from understanding the physical. So we need to integrate that in a new paradigm shift, if you may want to refer to it as, in order to try to better make sense of this. And the UAP and all the phenomena seem to be physical and non-physical, if you want to call it that, a psychic component, a consciousness component. It's a transpersonal event that results in a peak experience, whatever you want to call it. It changes the person's viewpoint. She provides that perspective, you see, and she's not alone. She's quite unique, and I learned from her, and I hope she learns from me as well as from Dave Beaty. We all work together in a sense and complement one another beautifully. So she provides that perspective, and she'll be part of the documentary.
Very cool. And you know what, Linda, we're going to learn a little bit about you tonight, because you and I may have a lot in common. We may have a lot in common. But Dr. Science Bob, because I got to keep you guys straight tonight. Can't have 2 Dr. Bobs in the house.
Why not? The more the merrier.
It gets dangerous around here, man. It gets totally dangerous around here. But for you, you're somebody who recently, over the last couple of years has really opened up to this whole scientific study. When you see data the way Dr. Davis is starting to formulate, how excited do you get about this?
So it's very exciting. So in the 1990s, while I was still working for Uncle Sam and traveling overseas, I visited Israel working for the government. And this is the first time I will have ever talked about this publicly. I walked around Jerusalem and on the West Bank and came back into Jerusalem through the East Gate, and without a guide, suddenly found myself in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, went inside and had a supernatural experience with a dozen people in front of one of those rock tombs. And it was really, really unbelievable. Now, I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you why. Not because I'm ashamed of it, because if I tell you about it, I'm going to be crying for 15 minutes because I can't tell this story without bawling. Just let's say it was a supernatural experience, and I had difficulty with it because I'm a scientist. My father was a Methodist minister, but I was an agnostic until I had this experience. And then after that, I was not. So then I went back and I did some, putting it aside and so forth. And then I ran into the evidence of UFOs and Richard Dolan and met Christopher Bledsoe and had amazing experiences with Chris Bledsoe of seeing UFOs and having a hitchhiker follow me home and so forth and so on. So in May of last year, I retired and said, I'm done with this stuff I've been doing, which I've done well, started 2 companies, published 100 papers, and published many more papers than that for Uncle Sam that are classified. And I'm going to follow this new road. And Bob Davis has done a ton of publishing about things I care about investigating. And we see the science of consciousness being worked on by really, really, really interesting scientists like Hoffman and others and Davis. And so it's time for someone like me to dive in. And there we are. I'm honored to interview these people. And you know, Dave, you and I, we love Dave Beaty, and the fact that he's involved with this documentary is a big deal to us and to others.
I want to get
Yes,
Linda
indeed.
in here for a minute. Linda, hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you.
So you're an experiencer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of-
Since childhood, early childhood.
Really? So for you, have you ran the gamut of everything from paranormal to UFOs to cryptids like fairies and maybe even Bigfoot? Because that's the energy you're giving off.
That's funny. I wouldn't say Bigfoot. Never seen Bigfoot. But I have had a variety of different types of experiences, including telepathic, precognition, ghosts, different kinds of intelligences, I guess you would want to call it. Everything from spiritual to UFOs to things that look like ghost ships in Key Largo, which I saw with my boyfriend at the time, who was a captain on a vessel, and my daughter, who was 12 at the time. The three of us all saw something on the water. It has been, a very lonely journey for a long time. Even though other people might see things with you or, on their own, it's usually not something that people want to talk about. It's usually something that, people will say, oh yeah, I remember that was weird. And then, they just don't want to delve into it anymore. Because it's a distraction. It's not something that you want to spend your time with delving into. Sometimes it might feel a little uncomfortable to think about. There were many times it was very difficult for me to go to sleep at night. I've done some pretty silly things like keeping all the lights on in the house at night, buying 2 or 3 different night lights for the same room, things like that, or just staying up all night long because I'm afraid to go to sleep. So it takes a while to adjust, and I am not, young anymore as far as, my age is a little bit older than I look, but, I'm a grandma. And I would say that now, at this age, looking back, when children are afraid of things, now that I have a granddaughter, I can really relate to that. So if she says to me, I'm afraid of something at night, I take it seriously. Whereas, looking back in time, when kids would say something like that, it's like, oh, you're fine. It's not a big deal. Now I get it. I understand what that feels like. So, when I first heard about Skinwalker Ranch, I honestly believed that Skinwalker Ranch was just a show. It was like one of those ghost shows. And I really didn't believe it. I thought it was maybe a put on. And then I started to hear that there was government involvement investigating it. And when I heard about George Knapp's book with Dr. Green, not Dr. Green, but the other
Kelleher.
Colm Kelleher, and I realized that there was something to it. And then I started looking into it, and I realized that my entire life has been very similar to that. where Skinwalker Ranch, you have UFOs, you have spiritual sightings, you have everything. I mean, I don't have cattle mutilations, but it's everything else that's involved in there seems to be very similar to a lot of the things that I've experienced throughout my life. So yeah, it covers everything. It covers just about everything. So I recently just finished a chapter for an upcoming book. It's a Greater Reality, and that's with Ray Hernandez. He was with Free, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters and Extraordinary Experiences. And we're just getting that going now. And Bob Davis has actually helped me with some of the editing. And it's been a long journey to write that, because I had to go all the way back to when I was 1 or 2 years old, and realizing that my entire life has been touched by this it's not very easy to accept it, So yeah, some people call it woo woo, for me it's pretty much become my life. I grown to kind of expect it now, including today, right?
and you see what we're talking about here. But you see how complex the issue is, and we're going to delve into that, given the time we have, of course. Not only are the aspects of the phenomena, with the UAPs and everything in between, a matter of controversy, which in a sense shouldn't be. We're all feverishly trying to figure it out technologically, consciously, whatever that means. But the other complex issue is just what Bob said, and I commend you for sharing that. And you see, I just started doing that. It took me a while to talk about my spiritual experience. What you had maybe is commonly termed a kundalini, although that's loosely used. But we can compare notes on that. Yeah, the cork really does come out of the bottle sometimes spontaneously. In Linda's case, it was an evolving process, very different, but it just provides the essence of the complexity of the issue at hand here. So we're talking about consciousness, which we have no answer to. We're talking about UAPs, which we have no answer to, and everything else which we scratching the surface on with stone knives and bear skin and all that sort of stuff. But because that cork is out of the bottle, either because of Kundalini, a UAP, and a gray in the bedroom, a deceased relative, all that information exchange, maybe that's consciousness. It comes in all different forms. It leaves the person with a transformative experience and a spiritual emergency. That can be quite severe. Depends on many variables, the personality involved and the type of experience. So it's not only trying to figure out what's going on, the impact that it has on the person's psyche, mental health, quality of life becomes a supreme issue. For some and most, over time, it becomes a positive experience as it's integrated. Initially, how can it not be shocking? And we're going to talk more about that with some of the research that's out there, as limited as in nature. But let's understand, all of us here represent a major piece of the population that is still, for good reason, stigma largely, media largely, etc., are still in the closet, unwilling to reveal it. So again, Bob, thank you. I had a Kundalini-like experience. I had it about 5 years ago, and I just started talking about it. Why? Ego. You've heard of stigma. But, it's real. Bob, you take a psychological eval. I do. Well, I may fail. You pass, Linda passed, Dave, you pass. But the point is, millions of well-balanced people are having these kinds of experiences. And Newtonian physics, of course, doesn't touch it. Quantum physics makes more sense. It still doesn't get there, but it makes more sense. And we'll talk about it. But thank you for sharing that, all of you.
Dr. Davis, for you, though, when you started to look into the whole consciousness aspect of science, how did you even start to look into it? Because if consciousness is everywhere, how do you record it?
Well, how do you record consciousness? You ask an anesthesiologist that question to look at the level of wakefulness on EEG machine. You ask a psychologist, you'll get some cognitive psychological diatribe as an answer. You ask a theologian, you get an expected answer that's quite different. Everybody has their own definition of consciousness. So there's no uniform agreement, and that's another source of frustration. Are we basically innately inborn, as some people think? Some neuroscientists believe we have that God neuron. We all have that spiritual neuron that they quest for. They touch upon it, but no, it's way beyond that. We have spiritually, because since we've been writing on cave walls, we've been trying to figure things out. And that's genetically, inscribed in our brain, and we're still trying to figure things out. And the more we try, the more complex it becomes. But we're lit, and it becomes a purpose in life. It makes it challenging, however, with these spiritual emergencies. So, it's left brain versus right brain. I followed the scientific method like Bob for many years, and then bada bing. You can't deny it. You struggle. And that's the ego versus non-ego, and sense of knowingness versus what you learned over the past 40, 50 years. It's a conflict intellectually. For more or some, it's more emotion or combination. Whatever it is, it's a transcendent effect. And for some, it requires the initial medication because of anxiety-provoking issues it has. Linda, thank you for sharing that. I keep the light on myself. In fact, I'd move, given the experiences you have. But it takes time to talk about this because of the stigma.
You can't move. You can't move. No, it follows.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter for you.
No, it follows. I call it a hitchhiker, others call it a hitchhiker, whatever. It follows. It followed me from the first time I was with Chris to my temporary home, back to Virginia, where I was standing in a parking lot and saw UFOs and was talking to Dave on the phone about them. And then I moved to Alabama, and it followed me here, and I had orbs in my front yard. I mean, come on. I had weird lights on my carport. I sent Dave the pictures of these. I mean, there comes a time when you have to say, with technological devices, independent of your mind, can record what's going on, you're no longer full of what.
Right.
There's something there. Okay. And we don't know what it is. I think Penrose and Hammeroff are there, since Hammeroff is an anesthesiologist and he can measure how to turn on and off consciousness and can measure it. What I think he's actually turning on and off is the antenna that interact with whatever the consciousness field is. But we're making progress, but it's slow. This is like all the years before Galileo, and all the years after Galileo before Newton, and all the years after Newton before Einstein upset absolutely everything. And we're on this road, and we got to follow this road, do some science, do some spirituality, etc. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, you guys all hold on. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Dr. Bob Davis, consciousness, NDEs, OBEs, ABCs of what we are studying regarding the phenomena. We are also joined by Science Bob McGwier and experiencer Linda Noyes. We'll be back with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this.
Okay.
All right, we're clear. I'm glad I don't have any weird experiences like you guys.
No, he only has aliens show up at the window during a radio show. He only has ghosts walking up and down the stairs in a barn. He only has aliens in a forest beckoning him to come, and he chickens out.
It's a business.
No, this guy's has as weird of experience as anybody. And I was with Melinda Leslie last week, and we went out to this weird farm that apparently everybody and the brother knows about but me. And she says, "Ooh, I'm feeling a weird field." And I look up and look over at this building, and a shadow figure walks by the windows. I mean, come on. It's just time to give up the BS and just say, okay, it's real. What can I do?
Bob, don't forget the time about a year ago where I picked out the remote viewing man, shadow man, standing in front of your tree behind you.
And I felt it. And he picked out where the trees were in relation to me, and exactly. And then he calls me up and says, "I think we've been taken." And I went, "I don't have any memory of this. What are you talking about?" But later I became curious because I wear a Fitbit.
Oh, this is good. Save this for the show.
And the Fitbit says, "Oh, we've done it, but we will." And the Fitbit says, "I was awake and moving around for 3 hours that I have no memory of."
Yeah. Then you know.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Davies has asked this question, and there's dozens of people that are now having this Fitbit experience, and I intend to do some science.
Well, that goes back to your Dave's question. How do you kind of measure it in a way? That's one way, of course, just to confirm the situation in a sense that something highly unusual happened. Yeah, how do you explain it? Exactly. This is good. This is good stuff. Where do you guys want to go? Have any ideas?
Well, we definitely want to give you time to talk about the upcoming documentary. And so but look, Bob, you changed your life and went woo. You were with Free. You published this amazing study, the largest study ever conducted on certain topics. We want you to cover that. And in addition to that, you've written 3 brilliant books. And, I don't agree with every word in them, but they are opening my mind.
I would change the first book a lot.
UFO book you definitely want to change, but the life after death. Here's the evidence. We need to go over that evidence and what you found. Okay, just do it at our own pace, whatever pace Dave sets. We cover these topics. We've done our job. We're going to run out of time. We won't get through all of it, and you'll have to come back.
Okay.
All I know is you guys, all 3 of you, are a bunch of weirdos, and I'm glad I'm not part of that.
I blame Dave. I blame Dave for getting me all the way into the deep end. So we were I was helping out Chris Bledsoe making a PowerPoint for UFO Con because he was a little worried about it. So I helped him put his slideshow together. And I went out to UFO Con, and Dave walks up to me and says, "We got to know each other." And here I am. Wow.
Yep. So you've had the hitchhiker.
Oh, my Lord. My hitchhiker came home with us. It sprayed water out of the middle of the air in my wife's face and my face. And then after I accepted it and made a positive statement that I was going to accept it and work on it to relevant people, my wife was healed from her stroke. You think I'm a doubter? No. Her neurologist cannot find the lesion.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah. What the F?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I get it.
Told her, don't come back to me. I can't even find the lesion.
Mm-hmm.
And released her forever.
But why her? Why just her?
We don't know. Why we don't have it's not predictable. That's the real thing.
Right.
The problem. It's not repeatable. It's not predictable. It's not measurable. We have an issue with scientists.
Yeah.
But we do have an angle of measurement now in the Fitbits.
Yeah, I agree.
Hold on.
I agree.
Thank you, Cat Chaser. Thank you, Science Bob and Smithy, for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. Thank you to our new subscribers on YouTube and TikTok. We really do appreciate that. And all the veterans who are tuned on in, we love you. You always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio. Here comes the second half hour of the show. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Dr. Bob Davis. We are talking consciousness and contact all night long. We are joined by experiencer Linda Noyes and a familiar voice to all of you, Dr. Bob McGwier, otherwise known as Science Bob around these parts. Everyone, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Dr. Davis, I want to start with you on this one. You know, you had your own experiences that led you down the consciousness path to try and find out, you know, a theory as to what is going on. To this point in time, what do you believe is happening? Is consciousness part of a spirit? Is it a modality that we all are intertwined with? Or is there a God that controls us like the strings of puppets? What do you think's going on?
Well, you'll have to get on the consciousnessfilm.info website for our documentary with Dave Beaty. The Consciousness Connection tries to get at that. Not that we're going to have an answer, but addresses the leading issues that relate to that. Because what is, you're asking me, what is consciousness? Information. Do I ascribe to panpsychism, information exchange? And you say to me, well, if everything's conscious, how could something solid be conscious? Well, the table just told me, don't do it again. It's painful. Maybe that's an aspect of consciousness. It's information transcendence, whatever that might be, in whatever way, shape, or form, extra-dimensionally, or, you and I. It depends, again, how you interpret it. From metaphysics to the medical room. And that's what we have to come to some agreement on, what we're talking about. And that's where many of our, polymaths like Science Bob struggles with, I think, trying to quantify, in a sense, getting back to your question, just that. What is consciousness mathematically? Can quantum physics, what we know of it, can math drive it? Can it incorporate that variable somehow? To explain the theory of everything, unless it's a simulation, VR, as Tom Campbell, who's in our documentary, will say. And yes, Eben Alexander, Jeff Long, NDE researcher experiences, who are also in our documentary. They'll give you a different definition. But to them, consciousness is leaving the body, universal love, timeless, spaceless, Kundalini effect, peak experience, a sun type, changes them forever.
While you're speaking about the film, please give us the website for the film. And in addition to that, tell people how they can support the film.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Again, consciousnessfilm.info provides sufficient information about the discussion of the topic areas in the film. We're going to have leading scientists across many disciplines, like Diane Hennessy-Powell, who does her scientific research at extrasensory perception with autistic savants. When Dave and I spoke to her about a month ago, she told us, for instance, getting off the topic, she has a 4-year-old that speaks different languages. That gets to your question, what is consciousness? Tell me that's a brain process, among other related matters. These autistic savants are quite unique. Gary Nolan is going to be in our documentary. Let's talk about him. David Luke, let's talk about him later. The list goes on and on, showing essentially that consciousness exists at every level. Meaning what? Information exchange between the subatomic particles to the cosmological, let alone human to physical system interaction. We exert influence more than we can think. Maybe that's consciousness, using that information stronger, greater intention, maybe to eventually our potential, to use it to humanity's potential, to heal. Maybe that's an aspect of consciousness. We're scratching the surface very frustratingly. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we need that paradigm shift to get more scientists like Science Bob involved in just this. It took him, however, look, a spiritual transformative experience, and Linda Noyes too, to get through life. Look where it led them. Look where it led Edgar Mitchell he had his transformative experience. He formed the ions. William Shatner cries when he comes back down to Earth. He's never the same. He had that consciousness aspect to it. It's a kundalini. Philosophical, personal values that change in many important ways from that moment forward. But we talk about that, whether it's the UAPs, the Grant Cameron will be in the documentary, to Dean Ray talking about ESP, consciousness there, how mental intention influences human interaction. The point is, we demonstrate that at every level. And we need support, obviously. There's the awkward aspect of being a co-producer. How else to get this important message out there other than to have a lot of money? Whatever you can do to support it, if you resonate with it, and thank you for your contributions. It's desirable as long as it gives you pleasure. I'm not begging for money here. You must resonate and appreciate what you're doing. Then it makes sense to me. It would go to a good cause. Let's just put it that way. You're trying to get at the issue to wake up people. You see, the cork's out of our bottle for different reasons, in a different way. We got a long way to go, but the general public need to be informed of this.
Is there a specific giving URL, or just go to the film URL and they'll find it?
The URL of the film, consciousnessfilm.info, which also includes a trailer and a list of the participants. Not all are included there, but enough of the experts and experiencers. Again, we're bringing in the physics, the science of the physical with the science as best as possible with subjective. Like Brenda Dunn, Roger Nelson can be in the Global Consciousness Project. Consciousness exists on the global scale. People need to be aware of this, but they're not going to realize it unless they get into the scientific literature. We'll get into that further, but it's in there in the film website. Yes.
Linda, where do you stand on everything with consciousness? Because as someone who has gone through a lot of experiences myself, I know the confusion that goes along with trying to put these puzzle pieces together. And as I've explained before on this show, it's like trying to solve a puzzle where every piece is gray and upside down. You don't get the colored side trying to figure everything out. So for you, as you have tried to solve your own mysteries as to what's going on, how has it been different for you that Dr. Davis has kind of hooked up with you to use you as a study, so to speak, in order to try and figure out the information and put these puzzle pieces together?
So from each experience that I've had, there seems to be, and I agree with Dr. Davis, and it's a form of information. So, but it's also an intelligence, and there's something with intention going on. So with each experience, there has always been intention from this source. Whoever it is, whatever it is showing intention. And there also seems to be purpose. There's always a purpose. There's always an intention going on. So it's finding out who it is, what it is. And I had a thing happen today that was quite upsetting, because it involved an old lady that she passed away, and it was the mother-in-law of a client that I was going to do a party for. And I was sitting, working on my chapter, doing some editing. Part of my chapter where I'm speaking about an incident where my sister and I and my cousins witnessed a UFO in Maracaibo, Venezuela in July of 1976. And we saw this UFO deliberately submerge itself into the ocean, into the sea. And so I was working on some of, proofreading that part of the chapter. And while I'm doing that, I received a text from my client. And she says, "I'm so sorry, but I have to cancel the party tomorrow. I just found out that my mother-in-law died." So I immediately call her to give her my condolences and, asking her, "Is there something I can do? Can I help you? Can I help?" Because she had to call all the guests and cancel. So I offered to call for her if she needed to be with her family. And so I asked her a few questions, and I mentioned to her, I said, because she said that her mother-in-law was in Venezuela. And I said, "Oh, wow." I was just thinking, I was just writing about this. And I said, "Well, I also have family in Venezuela." And then I asked her what city her mother-in-law lives in, Maracaibo. And I was just writing about the incident in Maracaibo, Venezuela. So I asked her, I said, when did this happen? When did this happen? She says, "Just right now. Right now, it happened just right now. I just got the call. The lady that takes care of her just called me right now and said that my mother-in-law just died, just this moment." So that's a really uncomfortable thing. That's not, and those things happen. Those are things that have happened.
That's what you call timing and meaning. I think you know the term, and what it means to you is what's important.
So
since Jung wrote about synchronicities,
Yeah.
we've all lived through them, and that is an amazing synchronicity, Linda.
Yeah, it is. And what are we talking about here? So physicists speculate. What's the current theory? Why did she have this experience? Does somebody provide information to her that should benefit her in some way by that? Is it information of what type? For what purpose? How's that done? Is it a biophoton regulation, as some of these physicists say? Maybe it's a carrier field of these, what are they called? Electromagnetic interactions. They don't have space or time. I don't know. We see it at the cellular DNA level. We even see it when you look at the brain, in a 3D way, in the spinal column. It looks like a torch in energy, a spin force, and we could discuss that. Is that, in other words, that other force that might explain maybe possibly some of this, where the brain interacts with that? I don't know. External. You talk about an external agent, and is that intelligent? Yeah, because we're getting this kind of information, as so many millions have. And how do you explain it? You get this interaction with the brain, which may very well goes back to your OR, where we see certainly quantum consciousness at the microtubule level. Hammerhart, the OR theory. We'll get into that. We see other evidences as well as a holographic construction of the mind. Piece represents the whole, the interrelatedness. We see aspects of quantum physics if we can extrapolate from the microscopic to the physiologic to the macroscopic. We see these analogies. Bob, I bet you like to play chess like when you was a kid. You try to integrate pieces. And you were such an important subjective piece as well as you're a science person, but you have both components. Maybe just struggle real in a different way because of that. It really goes at odds with your science background, trying to figure it out. But it also lights you up with passion, trying to figure it out in your unique way, and I commend you for that. But then you have Linda, well, what are we going to do? Do we look at Bob? Do we have an answer with torsion energy? Is that the biofield that what does it facilitate the anomalous events we're talking about that's associated with consciousness? Is it a real force that needs to be integrated into physics? I think we need to look at the holographic universe incorporates that. A holographic concept of consciousness integrates that. Edgar Mitchell ascribed to it. Doesn't mean it's right. It means that Newtonian. It addresses it much better than the unified field theory ever could, which is not designed to. But that's where our science is largely. That's a uniform agreed upon aspect of true reality, Newtonian physics. That's why we need that paradigm shift to explain these things. Look at the impact it has on millions of people. And let's not ignore that as far as UAPs are concerned too. Physical phenomena, as Linda, but also a consciousness psychic component as it's now being further revealed. Even the DoD came out with that cognitive, I forget how they put it, cognitive interaction, as they describe it, between something else, right? UAP and humans, besides the physical, no question. But they acknowledge it. I'm sure they threw Ingo Swann, others at it, and all whatever tech they could to figure it out, and they still can't. But people like Linda need to be heard, and there's something else significant going on, and gives us an aspect of maybe what true reality is all about. The point is, how do you be patient, waiting for an answer, right?
There may not be an answer.
Linda,
before you go, Dave, I want to point out to our audiences, Bob and I have been talking about technical things, especially the people on the radio, could not see Linda's emotional response to telling us that story of the interesting synchronicity she had with a person passing away in Maracaibo. And it was palpable, Linda. You could see the emotion on your face. And this is what is ridiculously hard for technical, physical scientists to capture. But we got to be sensitive. Dave, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask Linda, for every experiencer out there, we all want to be taken seriously. We all want to be believed. We want people of Dr. Davis and Science Bob's acumen to be, believing our story, even though it is only anecdotal. How have you changed since Bob Davis came into your life to study you and the phenomena that surrounds you?
She doesn't know me long enough, I don't think, to find out.
Yeah.
but it's
no, it has been a really great improvement in me piecing together the timing, in fact, between finishing this chapter and getting together with Dr. Davis and sorting things out and trying to make sense of them. It has really helped me, because I think what happens when you get caught up in the moment of an experience, and the first reaction is, oh my God, it's there's fear, there's shock, there's all this turmoil in your mind, because you're looking at something that you can't believe it's real. You can't believe it's really happening. And then you have to sit with it, and you need to sort it out. And sometimes you need to talk to people that will understand and not mock you, not ridicule you. They'll help you to sort it out and try to make sense of it and try to figure out, what is it trying to communicate to you? And today, that's exactly what we talked about. Dr. Davis said to me, listen, maybe this was, even though it was a horrible way, for everyone, for this family and for you to hear this, that somebody passed away that's dear to this family. And at the same time, it's a realization of something trying to say to you that this is a real thing. So maybe the synchronicity was a way of saying, this was a real thing that you saw. This is not fake. It's not human. It has to do with something beyond what we can understand. And in a way, it's also like saying, where we said, in the other realm, this grandma, she must be a great grandma, right? Mom, great grandma, grandma. She's not gone. She's in another realm. She's in another dimension. She's living in another way. We just can't see her, right? So maybe this is a message of saying, what we see in front of us is not all there is. There's something else besides just this. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the message. Maybe it's, we're not just here for this. There's another place we go to. This isn't just the end, So it has helped me to sort a lot of my experiences out and kind of measure them, where before I was just looking at them and saying, wow, what do I do with this? What do I do with it? But also learning of other people's experiences. And since the people in the military have come forward, and I have to say, I'm so thankful to them for being courageous and coming out and telling everyone what they have seen. For me, it was one of the greatest validations that I actually feel I'm not crazy. Now I know I'm not crazy, and I know, they've been going through their own thing. They've been through their own thing like this, where you have the actual experience and you have the nuts and bolts. But beyond the nuts and bolts of any experience, you have the psychic phenomenon going on. You have the incidents of hitchhiker effect, where somehow after an experience, maybe if somebody's with you, now that person starts experiencing things that they had never experienced before. It's almost as if it's like a cold, like you're spreading your cold to somebody else. I don't know how it's working. I don't know how that happens, but it's some kind of an intention, a communication, an intelligence, and an intent. There's an intent there. It's like something's trying to communicate with us. And, I think after all of these experiences and then seeing this happening to people that are in the services, we have to pay attention. Somebody's trying to say something to us, and we can't ignore it. It's definitely something there. And, working with Dr. Davis has tried, I've actually been able to put things in a better perspective and look at each experience. And he's made me question, well, what do you mean? Elaborate on that. And where does this go? What are you thinking of this? And I didn't do that before. And sometimes we need somebody to do that.
And on that note, I'm going to get you all to hold on, because we're going to wrap up hour number 1 here on Spaced Out Radio. Consciousness, ETs, UFOs, NDEs, OBEs. Where does it all go, and what does it all mean? Joining us tonight, Dr. Bob Davis, who has a documentary coming out on this very subject with Dave Beaty very, very soon. And we have Science Bob McGwier with us, as you know his voice. And, of course, Linda Noyes, lifelong experiencer, breaking down what she has gone through during this wonderful, weird, yet epic lifetime. Consciousness Talk continues on Spaced Out Radio when we return for hour number 2. And we're clear.
So let's suppose that consciousness is a quantum system, and my quantum system and Christopher Bledsoe's quantum system go together at his home, and we have a shared experience. Right then and there, our quantum systems are entangled. They're
That
makes
entangled,
lot
and
of
so
sense.
action at a distance happens through the entanglement. Now, look, I can't write down an equation that proves one damn bit of that, but it feels right. Remember earlier, Bob was knocking on a desk with his hand. That is a field causing that. Quantum electrodynamics causes his hand not to go through the desk, not because it's solid. It's not solid. It's a field. And these fields repel and interact with each other.
Correct.
And it feels to me like consciousness is some kind of field that we
Yes.
don't understand yet. Now,
Yes.
way science and math have worked really well is shedding all of the crap and going back to basics and starting from basics, building up a construct on which you can do things. And Hoffman has done this with conscious agents. Conscious agents is a fancy name for a probability space, a probability measure, and a few other things. And then we need to layer on top of that actions and so forth, and finally derive from this conscious agents quantum field theory and quantum information. If we do that, we're going to get someplace.
I agree.
But we are not there yet.
No. Oh, yeah, I agree. I'd like to talk about synchronicity in the free study quickly to bring in consciousness and maybe the UAP. Did you hear about the Day article? You talk about consciousness, by the way.
Kevin Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just came out publicly.
Yeah, and but I've known Kevin for a while. So anyway, I knew about this, but I'm glad it came out.
Are you talking about Kevin or David Fravor?
Kevin Day.
Kevin Day. Okay.
Who's had some, I think he mentioned it took home a kind of hitchhiker home with him, I think.
Well, Fravor has not admitted to woo-woo of any kind. He just saw something. Day has suffered tremendously with the hitchhiker and other things.
Yeah.
Oh,
He suffered.
okay. Yeah, it can cause suffering. It can
he's
cause
had an
suffering.
emergency. Exactly.
Cost him his marriage. It cost him a ton.
Right. And it's a pandemic. And where do you go for help? How many psychologists know about it? And don't put them on Thorazine. You know that.
And they put him on crap, so it didn't work.
Just going to a little restroom break.
He may need DMT. We could talk about that if you want. We can go anywhere. We can go to 4 in the morning if you want. But I don't think I'll make it. I don't think Linda will. She's been up since 8. How much time do we have left? I'd love to run to the bathroom.
About
An hour and a half.
4.
No, I mean to the break. 2-3
We have
minutes.
3 minutes.
All right,
Hi,
quick.
Alien Probe Master. Welcome, and thank you for lubing us up for tonight's show. We appreciate that.
Oh my goodness.
Brazelhoff, how you doing? He uses that special kind of lube. Just shimmies on in there, nice and easy.
Astroglide.
Yeah, Alien Probe Master. He uses the shimmy, just like a fishtail.
And he's greeting us from Uranus.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Willow Trees, how are you? Yep, he lubes us. He's our official lube master of Spaced Out Radio. I'm glad you're here, Science Bob. You put yourself on mute there, Bob. Oh, there's lovely Linda Noyes. Hi, gorgeous Lavira. Welcome back. John Pope, you. And there is Kronos and gorgeous Katie and 11. Welcome. Katie, haven't seen you in a while. 11, it's been about 10 days or so. Nice to have you back. Hard to believe my brain remembers this. It shouldn't. Tim McCart, how are you? Slipping and sliding. That's right, Katie. Right there, slipping and sliding. All thanks to Alien Probe Master. We've got about 40 seconds here. Hello there. Hey, Clam. How are you? Apollo 11. Nice to have you here. Jonathan Navies. There's Jonathan. Good morning to you, buddy. Larry A. Nice to have you here. Want to say a big thank you to Cat Chaser ×2, Science Bob, and Smithy for the incredible super chats, as we are very, very thankful. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. And a big thank you to all the veterans tuning in. Don't forget, you can do some Christmas shopping on our website, spacedoutradio.com/shop. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Demogenic. Demogenic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow, and on TikTok @SpacedOutRadio. Let's continue on tonight with Dr. Bob Davis. He is here to talk about all levels of consciousness so we can break it down, understand, and maybe even test out what is going on in this world with people who are having some extraordinary experiences. Also joining us is experiencer Linda Noyes, who is a test subject of Bob Davis's. And Science Bob is here. Dr. Bob McGwier, join us. How you guys doing?
Fine, thank you.
All right, let's continue on with hour two.
Right now. Just kidding.
Hey, you got a kid every now and again. This is Spaced Out Radio. We got to woo it up a little bit. We have to. That's kind of what we do around here. But I want to ask you, in regards to consciousness, Dr. Davis, the way you kind of have looked into this, to me, when I break it down, it is a higher level of everything, which I'm really, over the last couple of months, starting to lead towards using the word the phenomena more. I used to use the word paranormal as an umbrella term, but now I find myself using the word phenomena because the consciousness aspect of everything really seems to reign in true, from people who claim they have flown the craft to people who have had NDEs, out-of-body experiences, dealing with paranormal, and it just seems to all tie into one. Is the consciousness aspect this invisible thread that so many miss when it comes to tying the entire phenomena together?
I can't be egotistical enough to say that I have an answer. All I know is that, many thousands of scholars before me have written about it, including Plato, Socrates, and hundreds of thousands of lectures, hundreds of thousands of papers written on the topic, and we still don't have an answer. It says something about consciousness. Consciousness trying to find itself. And I think it probably comes in many different forms, like Maybe it's a part of spirituality. Maybe it's a part of determining my free will. Brain consciousness, physical consciousness, central nervous system consciousness, cellular, it goes on and on. The point is, information exchange exists at every level, and I think we see clear evidence on the subjective level. And Bob is right. How do you tie into physics in a sense with that? How do you make meaning of the essence of the subjective experience? That to me maybe is the most important aspect of consciousness. When you receive this information, either a physical download, or a Kundalini experience, a miraculous medical healing, which people experience in many ways with UAP encounters. You start wondering, it is a phenomenon indeed, but what kind of phenomena? Consciousness is part of it, and there's a physical aspect to it. That's how complex it is, but we don't have an answer. In order to understand that, we understand true reality. We're far from that, but something is interacting with us. It is an intelligence. It is an intelligence, and we saw that in this study with Free. I joined it because I saw 3,500 people who filled out 600 questions. So questions about what their experience was like when they interacted with the UAP or non-human intelligence. From a subjective perspective, we included the physical. Survey-based, they said they were conscious, they said they were normal. Certain percentages are not, of course, but 3,500 people. Important messages were sent. I saw the data there. I said, wow. I was a scientist my whole life. I wrote articles my whole life. It's right up my alley. I'm curious about the topic. I have an opportunity to contribute to science in this way. So I did. And I wrote the article. Ray Hernandez developed it. I helped to develop with Kenneth Ring, and it was a survey instrument. And then Russ Galpone and I wrote it. And it was published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. But it did provide a different aspect of an issue of consciousness that's associated with the UAP. And believe me, it is a physical issue too, but it is also a consciousness component, because most of the people who interact with the phenomenon say it's like an out-of-body experience being floated up into a matrix-like reality. Matrix-like reality, non-3D. We don't have the words for 4 or 5D, right? So their stories sound esoteric. It's hard to put into words. It's ineffable. The brain's not designed to do it. It's 3D based. So it's hard to interpret some of the qualitative responses we hear when people do interact with that alternate realm, whatever it might be. Again, I don't want to go into the multiverse and all those other theories, because we know that. The point is, there's something else beyond what's in front of your face. But people are sensing, they're visualizing, they're communicating with these non-human entities more frequently that when they're not in association with the UAP. You see? Okay. When you see a UAP, of course you can be, and they are. And people do report, but a minority, maybe 10, 20% report that they're physically relocated to a craft. He has a big black eyes, and they're doing something to the reproductive organs, right? Sometimes horrific, sometimes not. But the initial experiences are negative. How can it not be? And the larger picture is as the negative experience of the alien abduction phenomena, which Mac disagreed with, and our paper showed that it's not largely negative. Initially it is, of course, but over time people do adopt to it, and they want it. A good subset of the population, about 1,800 people, 90% who had interactions more than 10 times with non-human entities, did not want their interactions to stop. Say something. And incorporate that in physics. That sense of expanded consciousness, the feeling of bliss, the unconditional love. People have it when they have the NDEs. People are not in a negative way too. Let's not forget that. But over time, you see, when we did our study, we broke it down by number of abduction experiences. And those that responded, 1 or 2, largely negative. Well, that's what Hopkins saw. That's what the other hypnotic regressionists saw. So they painted the picture that it was largely negative in interaction with the UAP, largely negative, because when people went them for help, and I commend them for the help that they provided these people, for the most part, I think they came to the wrong conclusion, because they only saw people in a spiritual emergency after 1 or 2 times of their abduction. Over time, the people who had 10 or more, 20 times, they don't want it to end. What is that? The telepathic consciousness they have, that kind of information exchange that we all hear. And some of us experience that download of information. We know the great scientists have often said, like Edison, you never came to me. It comes to me in a dream, or when I'm in a hypnagogic state, when my brain's half shut down, I dissolve the ego in the left brain, and then I can communicate on more of a quantum level, and I'm, space and time, don't whatever, right? Law of entanglement, and I get information that my brain's filtering. See, the brain may serve as a filter, not a unique idea. It impedes our ability to sense true reality. Okay, it's a possibility. So once we kind of short circuit it, possibly through DMT. There's a study that came out just the other day. You talking about synchronicities? I think it was today. Today, David Luke is in our documentary. They just came out with a study, a thematic study of people who had DMT. They inhaled it. That was a survey-based, 60, 70 participants. They almost all interacted with non-human entities, varied range from cartoons to grades to you name it, everything between. Point is, what got me most of that lengthy article, commend him for his efforts, they interacted with benevolent personality, the essence of the experience. They felt love, you see? And now that's not always there, but why? Why do people say it's a positive outcome in our free study? You see, there is, whatever the information exchange is, it's generally benevolent. Not always. I know that the demons and all that, the horrific experiences, they do happen. Maybe that represents another branch of the tree. But the point is, thankfully, it's largely positive, but it's largely an out-of-body experience. They float up. Yeah.
Science Bob.
Well, so, my own experience was a little bit different, though. My first, I would call, experience happened when I was 3 years old. I got up one night, got out of the bed, went in and talked to my mother and her friend, and suddenly they found out I could read like I was 16 years old at 3. And it has happened overnight. And no one has any explanation for how it happened. When I was 1 year old, I had 3 near-death experiences because I cardiac arrested and had encephalitis. And I arrested 3 times before I was 1. Okay, so, and then I had a missing hour and a half of time when I was 18 years old driving home with my girlfriend. And none of these things I felt scared or threatened or anything. I was exhilarated. I was loving it. And after the hour and a half of missing time, I changed my entire life. Everything about my life changed after the missing hour and a half. I have no idea what happened. I just know I changed. So it doesn't have to always start negative. I don't remember any negative thing at all. The experiences I've had, none of them have been negative. Have I had paranormal experience? Yes, I went to a ghost tour at the Avenel House in Bedford, Virginia, and we had disembodied voices and people walking around. And I thought it was other people in the group, went downstairs, and they weren't anywhere near it. So it was disembodied people talking in the hall outside of the door we were in. So you'd have these weird, conflated, weird consciousness experiences. So let me bring it back now to something you wrote. Talk to us about life after death and the evidence, and talk about your book.
Life after death. Before I wrote the book, it was 50-50. After writing the book, it's 51-49 in favor of life after death. Now it's more, a lot more. The more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you learn. I wrote it basically for the academic population. The UFO book, I would more the intro 101, and in the 6-7 years since that, I would rewrite many sections and add a great deal more. There are better books out there. It's good if you want a nice intro 101. But the point is your life after death? Well, is consciousness the brain? What are we talking about? Or is there another force interacting with the brain? But do we persist after death, like Hammerhoffen would conclude? We're infinite, and he's not the only one. There's meta studies that I incorporate in that book on ESP that show that ESP is real. There's no question about it. Dean Braden is in our documentary, and it's statistical. It can't bend the spoon. Some people claim they can, but you got to dig into that literature and understand statistics to see that it is real. So you cultivate it, of course. Human potential could advance tremendously if we could understand it and develop it for humanity's benefit. And there seems to be potential in that regard. Then you go into mediumship and the work research at the Windbridge Institute, 80-90% accuracy by trained mediums, double, quadruple blinded. Well quality research. Some people can do it. They got an antenna, as you recall. Maybe the caudate part of the communicates with bilateral heightened connectivity of white matter that Gary Nolan talks about, that they see in this unique experience of population. So maybe you had that unique brain that allowed you to become that autistic savant. So the 4-year-old can speak 6 different languages, or what's a cube root of 5,812, and the 6-year-old looks up and gives her the answer, and she's right. What's that? Accessing an information field called different things. People perceive Nobel laureates, and they also believe that there's a consciousness field around us. What does that mean for life after death? I think it means something. We very likely persist. I say that with hesitancy because that left brain ego thing, right? Mm-hmm. Science Bob, we're trained, for decades. We fight that continuously. Maybe we stop fighting it when we flatline, the screen fades to black. But people sense that when they have NDEs, they interact with benevolent beings. OBEs, it's always benevolent beings, and then you say, well, people I'm talking to who are more well-balanced than me are telling me that they touched the gray. They interacted with the deceased relative. They interacted with Supreme Being. We see that with our, the Free Study, another major like reality. They have this unearthly realm that they're in, and then there's a mystical effect where they sense or see another person. Well, humanoid often, but it comes in all different shapes and sizes as you might expect. Point is, and that could be a projection, for us to better accept it. So it's a mind game at some level, besides just telepathy. But they're saying something quite important, of course. So it doesn't prove a darn thing. Are people seeing a different world or seeing different world differently? And the neuroscientists will look for that God spot to see if there's an innate spirituality. It causes us to believe in God and causes us to see these things. They're all archetypical things that's built into hardware. I don't think so. It reminds me of those drawings on the cave walls and pictures drawn thousands of years ago. The beam of light coming from above into the head, other strange things that now, given our better understanding, that they were trying to express similar things to what we're doing now, using the technology, artwork of the time, and language, etc. But they were describing the same darn things, and Plato asked the same questions we were asking. Their life after death, everything. So, because we know there is, don't you see? We know there is. It's just filtered. I think the ego is suppressing it. Some people, however, it's less impeded. Like you, Bob, when you had that, you had changed dramatically. How many different types, millions of people have changed dramatically overnight. Linda's a slow evolving process, but she's very different now as a person because of it. In some ways, good. I have a lot more to learn about Linda's unique experience. She's a beautiful person, brilliant, extremely talented professional, and this is a member of our society. How many millions we have? I can't tell you how many lawyers who are experiences. I think part of the Gillibrand Amendment that's going to go through, that's good. Finally, for what it's worth, I've learned a lot of experiences in politics now who are driving it through. They're not going to come out of the closet. The Navy's on board because their pilots are reporting it every day. So, and a little spoon feed, it's better good than not, but it's a long way away from getting at the answers to life after death. It's consciousness of the brain, or does the brain is giving rise from consciousness, which probably makes more sense.
Very much so, and I can see where that study is going. Linda, I want to bring you in here as we got about 4 minutes to go here. In some of the conversations you've had with Dr. Davis about consciousness and about the aspects of what you have gone through, trying to figure out the path that you have taken, what have you learned about the scientific side as an experiencer?
I realize that it does have to do with quantum physics, and I've begun to delve into quantum physics, quantum mechanics to find answers, because as Science Bob said, it's definitely having to do with entanglement, and I believe that that might explain how when you have contact with another person who may not have had experiences before, and you could just be with them, or you could be talking about the phenomenon together, and then that person somehow experiences their own experiences all of a sudden, where they've never had them before. That it does have something to do with quantum physics. Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, as you said, I mean, nothing is solid. It seems solid. We feel it seemingly solid. But I had one experience in 2015, and it was late. It was in the middle of the night. It was August 31st, 2015, and during my experience, I literally felt where my body changed from a solid matter state. And as if, you know, in sublimation, where you have a solid, go straight from a solid to a vapor. And that is the only way I could explain what I felt my body doing at that moment, was going into a vapor state. And then from that point on, going through the closet door. And I believe that, you know, that's an example. It's a scientific example that there's some sort of technology involved here that we don't understand. It's way beyond our years. And perhaps whoever this is has this ability to do this, where it looks like magic for us, but it is some form of science. It's some form of advanced technology.
It's like ice evaporating into a gas. It's form and formless in a way.
Ice.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a transition.
Absolutely. And somehow bringing it back to the solid state, you know, and not when you come back from that state, of course, and that experience, you're not the same. You're never the same.
I think people ought to realize that if we take a look at an atom, 99.13 nines with a little bitty 4 at the end is empty space. Okay, yeah. It's empty. Okay, so there's virtual things happening, but never mind. The real particles that are in an atom are mostly a tiny, tiny bit of the volume that keeps us from going through our chair and hitting on a desk. So we got to understand, there is no solid. There is no like matter that people are thinking like of these little building blocks that fit together like bricks and keep the water out. There's just nothing like that. Quantum physics has told us it's not like that at all. Forget about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you mentioned life after death, and it all ties in. And that's the beauty of it, and the frustration aspect is all interrelated in some ways. But You talked about my life after death book. If you told me what's the best evidence that there's life after death, it goes back to what Eben Alexander talked about, who's again is in the documentary. He met
Bob, I'm going to get you to wait right there because we do have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We will continue on with near-death talk, NDEs, out-of-body experiences, consciousness, the topic du jour on Spaced Out Radio with guest Dr. Bob Davis, Science Bob, and experiencer Linda Noyes. We continue after this. All right, we're clear.
I'm having a lot
let's
of fun.
Let's get some listener questions in.
Yeah, listener questions. If you guys want some questions asked, put them in capital letters so old Davey can actually read them. We'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. They'll start coming in.
Yeah, Julie's been cracking the whip, telling them to put it in all caps.
She's vicious, that gorgeous Jules.
Yeah, she's my Bama buddy.
Vicious.
Yeah, it's I never thought I would see a day where I would be talking about this in public.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, before I went and had my experiences with Chris Bledsoe, I had a top secret special intelligence clearance, and I wasn't talking about anything like this. Okay, and then I went, hey, some things are more important.
You had a passion.
Bob got the woo.
Well, the woo jumped on my back and wouldn't let go. Friggin' Dave Scott.
Yeah, blame me. I don't know how much I've been able to be blamed by you, but that's okay. I'll accept it.
With love.
So, Dave,
No, it's with love. It's with love.
You haven't had.
I haven't had which.
Dave, you haven't had experiences?
Oh, Lord, yes. Oh, my God, yes.
Let's see. I've been. Where do I start? I've had interaction with the Angel of Death twice. I've been a channeler. I have been face to face with aliens twice. Consciously.
Awake, and standing in front of them.
Yeah. I've seen about 140 UFOs over my time. I know I've been taken. I know I've been taken about 8 times that I can recall. The last time was with Science Bob.
For which I had no recall, but I had physical proof.
Yeah. What else can I tell you? I used to be able to summon. I can't do that anymore. I do a radio show to talk about all this because I'm a journalist by trade. And
profession. It's a profession.
It's a trade. I went to technical school. I went to BCIT, man. That's a technical school. It's a
profession. You're a professional.
Thank you. And let's see. I've had multiple experiences with ghosts. I've seen 2 Sasquatch and 1 little wood nymph. I don't know what else to call it. So it's been an interesting life since my happily boring life ended at 38 years old.
Yep.
So why, my question is why with all of these experiences that we're having, and people ask me, are you into really the CE5 thing? In a way, I find it fun, like a fun idea, but in the other way, I feel like, why would I do that? I don't need to do that.
For me, it's a look. I'm curious. I want to see shit and get it on film.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Me, I started this radio show because I didn't know where to turn, and I needed some answers. And, like with the black triangles I saw, both of them were much different than what everybody else has seen. Like everything that I've seen has always been like a fraction different. And I can't get an answer or pictures or diagrams of anything that I have seen. And I got frustrated. So that's my woo.
So when was the last time you guys had an experience?
Last summer, all the Blink 2 cameras around my house had orbs floating in around them. And I knew they were there because I could see them going past my window in my living room while I was watching television. So I turned on my Blink camera, and there were these orbs in a triangle bouncing up and down. And I went, well, I wonder if those are bugs that are being illuminated by the IR.
We're about to come back here. Hold on. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate each one of you listening in, each and every one of you, that is. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Consciousness talk all night long as we have Dr. Bob Davis with us, breaking everything down about his unique choice of study. Science Bob is here, along with experiencer Linda Noyes. We're going to get into some audience questions right off the bat. Science Bob and Bob Davis. Mennonite Abe would like to know what you think about the legislation that passed. Good or not?
I think it's good. People need to read some of the text, and it sets up an office. It mandates collection. It mandates taking our fancy sensors and fusing the information and making a report about what's found by this fusion to Congress. So I'm just telling you, that one piece of it will take all these exquisite instruments and force them all to look for UFOs and UAPs and USOs, and then put it all together. There's over $1 billion worth of work just getting that started. So it's going to have a serious budget because the mandate is there. They have to figure out how much money they need to do the mandate, and it's going to be billions. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they are forced to talk about artifacts that they have collected from crashes, and the word artifacts is in the bill. That's number two. Number three, they have to reverse engineer stuff, and they have to tell about any reverse engineering they've done and make a report to Congress, and they have to tell about the stuff they found in a public report once a year. I think it's a good thing. We'll see.
How about you, Bob Davis?
Well, yeah, for those reasons, certainly it's a very good thing. And the other thing too is just increasing the awareness on the part of the public that this is being taken seriously, and that hopefully will reduce the stigma so that we feel more free talking about our personal extraordinary experiences. And so again, it works on several different levels, and it's about time. You kind of wish Stanton Friedman was around to see it. But you never know what still will be kept secret, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. And it's a very, very positive event, no question about it.
His consciousness is around to see it.
Yes, indeed.
That's one way to put it. One way to put it. All right, let's go to another question from Sunsaver. Dr. Davis, what do you think about karma and reincarnation?
Karma and reincarnation. Yeah, there's something to karma. That what you put out, you get back in return. Yeah. Reincarnation, I defer to Ian Stevenson and his research with 350 kids that he published. The evidence to him was highly suggestive of reincarnation. Remember, he was going for tenure, so he really couldn't probably tell the truth. I mean, he probably believed in it, but he couldn't say that for John Mack could tell him easily why if they both were alive. The point is. And he looked at a few hundred of these young kids before the age of 8. Probably the most significant aspect of the evidence to him was that the birthmarks on the kids they were located where corresponding wounds were reported from prior lives that they described to him. So to him, that was compelling evidence. Why did that child was born with no hand? Well, the kid also talked about a prior life where the hand was chopped off. Those kinds of associations, again, qualitative evidence, a little kid, you can cut up to pieces, but highly suggestive. They continue that kind of research today, too, at the University of Virginia, I believe. So what we're talking about, the hologram, all that stuff, what it may mean in a nutshell. Well, reincarnation, I don't know. It's probably right. Again, the basic question is the consciousness the brain? And if not, likely isn't, then yeah, reincarnation must be part of that process.
And I want to add Leslie Kane's book, Surviving Death, covers a lot of this stuff in great detail with actual events and studies and people's names. So that's a good book to read.
Yes, indeed.
All right, let's move on to another question here from Nicola. Dr. Davis, what do you think of using the name of Jesus or prayer from stopping the experiences?
Well, some people say it works. I've heard it anecdotal, but don't go by that as a formula that'll always always work. Here again, these questions are posed. We have 10 million kinds of questions like this. There's actually a book about how to defend yourself. Kathy Martin wrote one, How to Defend Yourself Against this kind of effect. How do you stop it if you don't want it to happen? So some people report, and may not be saying the word, but the intention, when maybe a negative entity is there. Who knows? But the point is we need more research along these lines, the thematic essence of these kinds of issues, you see. And we're just scratching the surface. We need much, much more of that. And although getting back to the prior question, although the government is going to study the UAP, the public still has to be very much involved. And the boots on the ground like UAPX and other, ufology organizations need to be very much involved and supported in any way possible. That's when we're really going to get, I think, that smoking gun that we all look for, or at least get a little bit closer to the truth.
We've all talked about how intention is important. So if you are a believer in Christ and you invoke Christ's name to help you, you are really loading up on intention, and it probably helps.
That's a good way to put it. I agree.
Okay.
Mental intention. Yeah, good.
Let's move on. Vash the Impaler is asking, have either of the science bobs heard of blind people who have had near-death experiences?
And Jeff Long talks about that. There's been a few studies, not many studies, small sample size, of course, but and people describe what they experience visually. And what got Jeff Long most amazed about blind people who reported having NDEs was that they were surprised when people said that you know what, us sighted people can only see pie-shaped 180 degrees, because when they had the experience, they saw 360. This is what people who had NDEs say. This is what quantum consonance says. Quantum physics says no time, no space. A 360 viewpoint. The out-of-body experience. Interesting. So,
yeah. All right, we can move on here. Jenny is asking, what are your thoughts on ascension? Are we moving into other dimensions?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Linda, you think so?
I think so. I think it has to do with being able to either on your own, with your own intention to move into another dimension or to visit other dimensions, or by the intention of other intelligences that are capable of moving you with them into those other dimensions. I believe that there is, I don't think that we are creatures that are meant to be only in this dimension. I think we're kind of stuck here because we don't seem to know better. And, maybe we claim that we know better, or we know more, but we're still afraid. And so we don't understand what it really means to go to another dimension, or to be able to ascend to another dimension. We're still not there yet. We're not able to just sit there and yet, all of us to say, okay, now we want to do this. We want to move to this other place. But it seems like it's intended, we're supposed to be able to do that. We just haven't advanced there yet.
Either Bob, would you like to respond to that?
It depends what you mean, extra dimension. People report it. No space, no time. Past, present, future exist simultaneously. What is that? Another dimension? I guess it's non-3D. So if you go by what people say, yeah, there are different dimensions. Given alterations of space and time. We see this with even psychedelic experiments and DMT, alterations of space and time and interactions with non-human entities. Are we actually, again, experiencing another dimension, an aspect of non-3D? That's not, we don't rely totally on our physical senses to interpret reality. We go beyond that. And you can make a good case for that. And maybe that's it in a nutshell. Once beyond the limitations of the body chemistry. But we do see, you sense true reality, but you do see, however, beginning to see the aspects of what science, Bob, is involved in quantum physics and biology. Don't you say? It's all starting to integrate. If you get truth in every different area, that's way too fragmented and limited in nature in our ability to truly understand the complexity of it all. You need to integrate what you consider to be truths, even from religion, history, UAP to the paranormal, to everything we're talking about. What's the woo and the non-woo? What's legitimate, and what do we ascribe to, believe in? And I commend you, gentlemen, for helping along those lines in the way you do.
So Jenny asked specifically about ascension. Are we moving into other dimensions? And I just don't know the answer. But I want to tell you, as a mathematician, physicist, engineer, higher dimensions, that doesn't seem like any big deal to me. I worked in higher dimensional spaces my entire adult life. And I know that it's really easy to construct a mathematical object, which may in fact correspond with some physical instantiation that allows us to change from one frequency or one dimension to another. And if you crank up a frequency, which means something very specific to me, you can move into another dimension, theoretically. How we do that physically and in the real world with real experiences, I don't know the answer, but mathematically, it's no big deal.
Right, integrated. That's the missing link, isn't it? That subjective, the essence that you were referring to earlier. And I'm getting at the same issue. How do you integrate the subjective and the physical? And I think that once we're successful, whenever that is, we'll hopefully get to that answer better.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one from Sovereign. All right. Nope, that's about Bob's and my experience. We'll get into that later on. Julie is asking, if all is consciousness, then are the physical manifestations of the phenomena stigmata?
Some people claim that to
be
true.
And again, I don't know. But look, if the stories that Bob told us and the stories that Leslie Kane have told us are factual, and let's just assume they are, then these marks on the bodies of 2 and 3-year-old children that then later express a belief that they had a previous life, and they correspond to wounds and other things in their life from their previous life, then that's evidence. Is it proof? No, but it is evidence.
And vertical perception. Eben Alexander will say he met a beautiful woman. When he had his NDE, she gave him facts and figures about herself. You know, I was your sister, and I died 10 years before you were born. Other information about the family goes back, tells the parents. There's no way he could have known unless he met her. And what does that mean? These Picandarian cases, what do you want to call it, vertical perceptions, rare, but they occur. And I'm looking at that. Jeff Long is the founder of the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation. You have thousands of these NDE qualitative reports of people's NDE getting at this in a sense. Again, hard to just understand because they're sensing non-3D, but it gets that they all share similarities, certainly has what to do with these other dimensions, universal love, everything that we hear about, of course. But that kind of information, more than anything, proves to me of life after death. Information that we could not have obtained unless we did visit the other side with another, whatever that is, come back, have it verified. Good luck with that. You know, see, that's what Ian Stevenson was after. You know, we should be looking again more into the qualitative research. It's out there. There's many master's thesis, dissertations, in a vast array of qualitative information. Even in our study that was published, we didn't include it, but the responses to 600 questions, qualitative. John Klimo is trying to make sense of it, but it is so esoteric in nature because it's trying to, again, describe these other whatever realms of existence using language that's 3D based, because language represents our understanding of the universe. We don't understand when we're in that non-3D zone. We're using language that's not appropriate for description. We need a social anthropologist. We need a linguist, like in that movie, you know, to try to decipher some of this communication that it seems that we're receiving. It's as bizarre as that. As time, you know, Vallée was right. It's bizarre. The people that study, you know, Hasdallan Lights, Terry Durrani, he talks about the same stuff. It's an intelligence. You get kind of getting off the topic, but these, and I'm not saying it's UAP, it could be plasma intelligence. He called it intelligence after decades of studying it, throwing the scientific method at it. And he's not alone. You know, Dr. Harvey Rutledge came to the same conclusion after a decade studying the same kind of anomalous lights in Missouri. Okay, project identification. He writes about it. They're intelligent. What is that all about? You know, I listen to these dudes. It doesn't explain UFPs. You know, they're all, you know, these lights in Hasdallan and all that. It could explain part of the complexity again, as we may have been mentioning, these orbs, as you mentioned with Chris Bledsoe. Those kind of, maybe it's the same. I don't know. Is it plasma based? I don't even want to go there really, but it's interactive. There's mental intention indeed, and some leading scientists, astrophysicists, who have studied it independently of each other at different times, different locations, come up with the same conclusion. I don't think we should ignore these little bits of pieces of information and see if there's something there. And Teodorani has been more open about his impressions in a recent article. He doesn't talk about this in his prior articles, but it's interesting.
All right, let's move on. Jeffrey is asking, what exactly do we mean when we say consciousness? Are the things, in brackets, UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, etc., real or just a product of our minds?
So look, recently I've become kind of a follower and studier and so forth of Hoffman. And based on evolutionary game theory, he's derived theorems about consciousness and our perceptions. And the perceptions, it's provable by theorem, are perceptions that tell the individual consciousness true reality are deselected by evolution. So in other words, our perceptions are an illusion. They are not reality. So what that means to me is the answer to your question is your own consciousness, your own personality, your own experiences, your own upbringing, whatever. All of the factors of your life impact what you will experience with some strange occurrence. So this has been reported by lots of people who bring evil intentions to Skinwalker Ranch have a bad day. People who don't bring evil intentions to Skinwalker Ranch don't necessarily have a bad day. So it's just I think that we know enough to know that given both science and experience, the answer to your question is likely yes. We perceive them differently.
Middle Child is asking Dr. Davis, do you think the phenomena is physical, metaphysical, or both?
What phenomena? It's both, and maybe even more so. It depends maybe on the phenomena involved, but it seems the brain is involved and an external energy. And maybe it's all physical in that regard. We don't know the variables that we're really talking about here, so it's hard to say physical. Yeah, I'd say it's yet to be explained. So it's another force that not in the unified field theory, but it could be a physical force that is integrated with the brain, like that torsion energy or spin force, possibly. And so it could be physical. We call it non-physical in the sense that it has psychic. What do we mean by consciousness? What do we mean by paranormal? So we don't have the understanding about what these terms really imply, let alone whether it's physical or non-physical. And it's a great question. I wrestle with the same thing, and that's a part of the UAP issue too. What's physical, what's non-physical, and it seems to be both. Hynek and Vallée and others come to that conclusion, some more than others, and but there's just an example of incomprehensible complexity of the issue that generates these kinds of good questions.
All right, Linda, I have a question for you from Lynn, who is asking, what made you decide to share your experiences?
That's a good question. It's taken me a really long time, and I've felt very alone for a long time. And I would say in mid to late 2017, there were, a little bit before that, there were some major concerns that Kim Jong-un was going to do some things with his little nuclear weapons there. And I knew already there was a history of UAP or UFOs shutting down our, nuclear weapons in different locations around the globe. Russia had it happen. We've had it happen. And I kind of was really hoping and I guess praying that something would give and something would come out. And we did. We had December 2017. A lot of our military service people came out about this phenomenon. And I think after that, I really felt like it's time to start saying this publicly. And I did in 2018. I had a conference with Free. Ray Hernandez asked me to do a PowerPoint presentation for one of the Free Experiencer conference in 2018 in Miami. And that was the first time I spoke publicly about it. And after hearing a lot of other people's experiences, I started to realize that this is something that's going on around the world. I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. And for those other people out there, you're not alone. You may not be ready to come out and talk about it, but I think it's important to listen to what other people have experienced, so you feel a sense of that you're not isolated. And this is, for me, this is about helping other people not feel isolated like I felt.
And right there, that's where we're going to stop it, as we got to go to break here at the top of the hour here. We're 2 hours in. We have Dr. Bob Davis, Science Bob, and Linda Noyes here for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, talking about consciousness all night long. Then at the bottom of the hour, it's Dave 101 time once again. The NDAA. Good? Bad? Are you indifferent? Am I indifferent? I don't know yet. I'll tell you when you listen. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio. When you return, and when we return on the mighty SOR.
Going well, gentlemen and Linda. I like very good discussion. I hope you're enjoying it all. Linda, I'm so glad you're here to.
I'll be right back, guys.
Kind of compliment, some of the science, mumbo jumbo. It's really, really cool, and Bob too. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy
So,
interacting
wow.
with the audience, and so it's good.
You're only on once a month, Bob? I've seen you on before. So it's just once a month.
I have a show called Science Bob Show once a month.
Yeah, that's what you do. Yeah, I've seen it. If you want me to be on, I'd be happy to at some point.
Yep.
I assume you talk about this. But, you hear a lot of the same stories, but, which is fine, from my perspective, but just for PR and the documentary, that would be great. And you could even have Dave and Linda.
As
you wish.
And Dave loves us. He comes on. And Dave and I've had a very friendly relationship since his early days of coming out with the Tic Tac simulation film. Manufactured film of what happened on the Nimitz. I mean, I really grew to admire Dave, and I didn't know about his past, but then I investigated and found out he was serious. We got him on the show, and we had a great time.
I was going to mention a story with Dave about a synchronicity when Linda was talking about hers. Kind of funny. I decided once to. Maybe you heard me say this, Bob. If you heard me on the shows talking about the synchronicity I had with Dave, so I'm not going to get into it. Okay, but that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I was telling one the other day, a few weeks ago, Bob, I was doing this. I was in my lanai, looking up in the sky, one of those moments, and I say, I'd like to learn the names of the stars, and so the skylight, whatever the thing is. So I go, okay, that's Deneb. I was looking more in the northwest, Deneb. Oh, I think Altair. I think Altair or Athena, whatever. A. Vega. D-A-V. So I said, okay, I'm going to use an acronym. That's to remember it. Then, Athena, Vega, D-A-V. You see, he's he doesn't have to be a polymath to figure that out. You see that?
No, it's good. So I want to talk to you about another thing. So you were talking about knocking on something before, and I was talking about it being a quantum field mostly empty. And Carl Jung interacted with the physicist that gave us the principle that determines you can't put your hand through your desk. It's called the Fermi talk about the Pauli exclusion principle. And Wolfgang Pauli was his major interactive person when Jung was putting together his feelings, thoughts, etc. about synchronicity. Pauli had a major impact on him. And Pauli went into a lab at Princeton. And he went into the lab, and whatever weirdness he has, he basically blew up every piece of equipment in the lab. So, I mean, this is a Nobel Prize winning physicist talking to Jung about synchronicity and then blowing up stuff with his own psi powers. I mean, it's just, look, we need to stop. We need to stop lying to each other and start saying, look, this is something real. Let's work on it. Let's figure it out.
And they've been trying to, yeah. Exactly right. And how much do they really know in unacknowledged access programs? More than what they let us know. Do we have any? As we always speculate on that. And the isotope ratios and looking for that hard evidence. The breadcrumbs they leave us. Who said that? It's like we're being spoon fed. And I would do this to my wife. I always feel there's somebody, playing. Obviously with you guys, we all sense this. There's something. I don't know.
But I keep
beyond us
questioning.
controlling
I
us.
keep questioning. Why are they doing it? I want an answer.
That paper, you talked about coincidence. Like I mentioned before, I read the paper by Luke, DMT, just published. Why are they doing it? And the people who do the DMT never did it. They're saying that they're like our angels, and it gets back into the religions thing again. It gets, is that all there is? God, angels, is that it? We do have. They talk about that, or they project that to us. That's the way they allow us to interpret.
Well, at least that's an explanation.
Yeah, but that's what they come away. I forget the percentage, but 100% are coming away with that benevolent interact. I felt the love in them. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
All right, last segment.
Okay, Doug.
Hey, boys and girls, what a fun show this has been. And like this. When we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, just hold off until before you log off. Just wait till we get to break, and I'll say a proper good night to all of you before we send you on your way. If you don't mind, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got about 18 seconds. Big thank you to Todd, Cat Chaser ×2, Science Bob, and Smithy for the awesome super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Stick around for Dave 101 at the bottom of the hour. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
We're kicking off the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Demogenic. Demogenic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we have Dr. Bob Davis here, along with experiencer Linda Noyes and Science Bob. We've been talking about consciousness all night long, and we're in audience questions now. Jonathan is asking, is this existence a cycle of education for the consciousness, reincarnation until ascension to become beings of light, Dr. Davis?
That's a good answer as any. It's quite possible there's some preparatory phase we have to go through. Maybe there is some learning from our mistakes, before that happens, successfully. I don't know. Again, the things you're saying, you're coming from insight. And I appreciate the question, Jonathan. You had that kind of personal insight. A lot of people who have these kinds of experiences ask those kinds of questions because it makes sense to them. And thus, we are on an evolutionary scale. Look, our bodies evolve physically over time, right? assuming there wasn't any genetic manipulation, as the missing link. But nevertheless, maybe spiritually too, innately, brain-wise, we also evolve. Maybe we have some innate sense of spirituality. Call that an ascension. Be more spiritual, more aware. We learn through more science, learn through more meditative practices, learn through more, but it generates more questions, leading to that very insightful question. I wish I had the perfect answer to you, and I can't lie. I wish I did.
I wanted to add that a billion Christians praying, hoping to ascend, and billion Buddhists meditating daily, wanting to reach nirvana and ascend. There's got to be something to this. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
that works for me. That works for me. Follow-up question from Jonathan here. Let me just find it here. Where did it go now? Where did I put it? Here it is. On death, do we go to another dimension awaiting the next rebirth?
we don't have any evidence for the answer. All we know about death is what clinical definition is: flat EEG for 20 seconds or so, then you're dead. That's even controversial, the clinical definition of death. So, whether or not, so we don't know. The only thing we know is that people pierce some kind of veil, that another dimension. So we don't know if there is rebirth. People, however, anecdotally talking about past life experiences. But here again, we need that subjective essence of what they're getting at and trying to prove it quantitatively, which is not possible because the concepts of true reality is physical based. So when people say something, it's often like prove you're in love. You can't objectively quantify it in a sense. So in a physical way. So we're talking about a nebulous thing in that regard. Next rebirth, people talk about it, and I tend to believe them because it's coming from very well-balanced, sane individuals from all walks of life. And I have to go with that. So changing my concept of what evidence I should ascribe to, literally. You got to be careful because we all make those errors in inductive reasoning. And that's a struggle I face, being a left brain and then this right brain stuff coming in and everything in between.
Billions of Asians believe in reincarnation. And so are billions of people who give their whole lives to this wrong. So who am I to say they're wrong? So I think that there's and then you have Leslie Kean and Dr. Davis and others writing about life after death. And Leslie Kean's book has multiple instances of people returning to a new body after death. So I think that there's at least enough evidence to consider it.
Yeah.
All right. Larry wants to know, what can be a security risk that the government doesn't want the people to know about? Science Bob?
That is one outstanding question, and it is the top of my list. What would cause the government to go crazy with Roswell and just trample all over people's rights? In some cases, claim that they murdered people. I mean, come on. What can be so awful that they would go to that extreme? So do I think something is being covered up? Yes, I do. But I don't know what it is.
David, take a shot at that one.
Yeah, it's not my area of expertise. It's Grant Cameron kind of stuff. But there's ample evidence of that. The MIBs, the threats, people being told we heard all about that. So sure, and that's certainly part of the issue. And the government the powers that be have always been suppressing it because they can never figure out what it was, what it is, nor can they now. And they're in power, so they feel, to protect the populace as well, to satisfy their egos, of course. And they don't want questions from the public because they don't have the answers. They know that if they come out and admit, UAPs are real and it's an intelligence that's interacting with humans, see, that's far more than what they're saying. We're gonna give some money here. We're gonna study it. Okay, we're gonna throw some things, technological things, database upgrades, and all that sort of stuff. And positive move. But there's more to the equation. They know it's intelligence, and they're not going to come out and go that far and say that because, I'm sorry, I'm for disclosure, but you got to do it slowly and purposefully, knowing that it's going to upset the apple cart. And if you have a lot of money in the stock market, it's going to open up a lot lower the next day if the government comes out and says, guess what? Those lights in the sky, they really are, non-human entities, and everything is in question. How's your morning coffee the next day, right? So it's, the Battelle Institute, they wrote a paper in a sense about that. How do we share information with the public? If we did indeed come in with information that we found evidence of life, intelligent life on another planet. And that's what we're searching for, of course, with SETI. Now, how do we share that? Well, that's nothing in comparison to what Linda and Bob are talking about, and there are millions of others. And they know that. Whether they're going to come out and say, yes, it's true on CNN, no. I think they'll always hold that back at some level. Not always, I shouldn't say that. But UAPs, are real, and that's about all we'll get for now.
Makes sense. All right. Let's go to another question here. Ian is asking, what happens to consciousness when you drown or freeze? Has there been checks in that study?
What happens to consciousness when the body is, biological processes slow down a little bit, and that helps preserve some people from dying. You don't fade to black as fast. Let's put it that way. What happens when you drown and freeze? I don't know. A lot of people report NDEs, of course, when they have that, or somebody coming to rescue them. You get those kind of interventions of those kinds of types. Not only medical healings that occur. Why some people are saved or turned to take the right turn, when otherwise they would have been killed. That kind of thing. We see these interventions. I don't know.
Mm.
And what happens? All I know is that some studies show that your intention can change water crystals. Okay, your intention can modify a laser interferometer in the up or down direction. We can go on and on, bore you all to death. We're all aware of that. Mental intention affects a lot of things. So, what happens when you drown in trees? I don't know.
That's a good answer. I don't know either.
I don't want to try to find out.
Very true. Very true. We only got about a dozen minutes left in this show that's flying on by. Linda, for you, where do you want to see the study go from here?
Well, I would like to see an integration, a collaboration with all the camps, let's say. So where we have all, the nuts and bolts and the consciousness studies and the quantum physics studies, the studies of the mind, the brain, the consciousness combined, and, life after death, dimensions, all of this needs to be integrated. And I would like to see everyone put aside their egos, everybody that's looking at this phenomenon in every way, and try to collaborate and try to put their ideas together to try to come up with an answer. What is this? Who is it? Is it us doing this? Is it our consciousness doing this? Or is it something external? which I believe it is something external, but I also do believe that each one of us has a different perspective and we will have a different experience. So if you put, let's say, saying it very plainly, if you put out negative vibes towards someone who's walking towards you, right, on the street, you don't know them. Well, they're going to reflect those negative vibes back at you, right? But if you are approaching someone and you smile, you're going to get a positive, most likely you're going to get hopefully a positive reflection back. And that's where the perspective comes in, and a lot of times with these experiences.
You're right. And exactly, Linda. And if I may say, what you're touching upon is ego dissolution. And a lot of these kinds of paranormal experiences cause some ego dissolution, where you get a better sense of reality, you become more interested in ecology of the planet, you get ego dissolution. So what? You're not the center of the universe anymore. You become more humane. People in our free study are saying this. Not in every respect, but the more spiritualist, materialistic. We've heard all of this before. How many times do we want to hear the same stuff? No more fear of life after death, all of that. Divorce rates are higher in those who have UAPs and NDE experiences. Why they change? Transpersonal event. Point is, however, why is it positive? Largely positive. And that gets at the heart of the issue. How can we understand what changes occur in the brain that causes this alteration in perspective? Is it reflected in the brain, for one thing? Does DMT get at it, as some people suspect it may? Who knows? But once we question reality, or once we're given a sense that reality is much more complex, it almost provides us with that unique insight to where we're more aware. And because we become more aware, we become more humane. And I think by nature it's symptomatic, less materialistic, more caring, loving, all of that stuff. Maybe increasing awareness gives rise to those symptoms, becoming more humane, because these people are interacting with the phenomena. Of course, socks are knocked off in many ways, shapes, and forms, but over time, largely positive. That evolution, spiritual evolution, in some ways it is. And is it intentionally directed at us in a slow, painless as possible way to elevate us in some way? Well, maybe.
Very true. Very true indeed. Bob, do you want to jump in on that?
I'm good. Keep going.
Okay, so what's the direction that goes from here? Okay, you've got the studies, you've got the case studies, Dr. Davis, like Linda, and maybe other people that you are kind of searching for. Is it expanding that program to get more multiple experiencers to see how they react to the phenomena as well? Do you expand that way through other people?
It comes in all different ways. Every discipline should look at this, for one thing. I mean, every discipline should look at the paranormal. It should be a separate science that's interrelated. You name the discipline, you can make a case for why it should investigate the phenomena. I think we need social anthropologists desperately involved. One limitation is we have these experts out there with knowledge. They don't get at what's happening to the people, but we have people like Science Bob and others throwing heavy-duty science at it, getting closer to it, making advancements, but they lack that subjective thing. So future research, incorporate the science of the subjective with the physical, integrate it as best as possible. And you're asking a lot, but we're not going to get, I think, the true answers of all of this unless we do. And that's maybe the missing link in the math, that essence of consciousness. What are you really looking at? And where do you go for that answer? How do you come up with the answer when we're talking about something that's esoteric in nature? That gut feeling. You put that in math. And Bob beautifully alluded to earlier when he said, when Linda was talking about her synchronicity, very moving. Of course, there's a very meaningful message there. How can it not be? Spiritual, conscious, transparent, whatever you want to call it. And she's an experiencer. she's given that insight and enhanced awareness because of it, but it still makes her question things because of her prior experiences, a good and a bad, because we're slaves to the brain and our ego. Dissolve it. And if you know the drug company that's going to come out with a pill that can say, here, take 2 of these a day for 4 weeks, and you're going to have ego dissolution and become more humane, I think I'd like to invest in that company before that news came public. I think that's the issue at hand, ego dissolution. I think that's what happens to these people. I think that's a lot of what they're describing as an outcome of these interactions. Not all, but majority.
Dr. Davis, maybe I'm going to ask this the wrong way, and maybe I'm too hopeful on this, but in everything that I have heard tonight, and I'm not a very scientific person, I much prefer the woo side of everything because that's my experience. But from what I've heard tonight, it gives me hope that the answer from what you have said, and maybe that's just the way my brain translated it, is that the answer to all of this is truly within the experiencers that have been forgotten about. Everybody wants to know about the technology. Everybody wants to know about the craft and the 0 point energy and everything along those lines. Yet we've got thousands of years of study here and people who are experiencing this phenomena on a daily basis. Is it within us then to have these answers and we just haven't unlocked the key?
I don't think we'll ever have the entire answer if we're still in this body. That answer will be impeding unless we, I think, release from the confines of the box we're in. We forget about the experiences, and that has to be incorporated into it. And that's essentially where we have to go, and we forget about it because people don't talk about it. So how do we know people are experiencing it? Where's the media coming out and saying that people are having these effects, these interactions, let alone it being real? I mean, you're getting to East and Western medicine here, and what's regarded as true reality, how psychotic versus non-psychotic. We can go another few hours. You got time? How we view people's viewpoints and how they're treated. I mean, if Linda Noyes was in Salem, Massachusetts, they'd burn her back in 1800, right?
We can't have
people
that.
Never talk about it. Right, we can't have that. But that's the point, the stigma. But if she was born in somewhere in India, she'd be regarded as a shaman. People would worship her. It's so cultural based, let alone personality based. It's that incorporate that in math. It's how we respond to it and how to help people who question reality, themselves, the world, and beyond after having these kinds of experiences. And that's the most significant point. Hey, help sponsor the documentary. If you resonate with this stuff, we want to talk about this, raise people's awareness, please. We got the experts, experiences like Linda, and we're trying to piece it together as best as possible. Not that we're going to be right, but kindly help sponsor if you can, or if you know of others who can, organizations, please. Not for me to make money, but because why? Like you, the cork's out of the bottle, like millions, you're passionate. Again, little ego dissolution. I got a long way to go. We all do. Little, it's not the money. It's hey, everybody. It's time to be aware of what really is going on here. Reality is far more complex than you can ever imagine. And let's raise a consciousness. I'm sorry to use that term, but raise the level of awareness, wakefulness of the population. This is real. This is real and significant. That's the most important question of our time. And we're only scratching the surface.
Linda, we've got 90 seconds for you. What do you want to see happen moving forward?
Well, I definitely want to see more people. The main thing is to get rid of the stigma. I want the stigma to go away. I want everyone to be able to speak of their experiences openly, in public. Whistleblowers being able to come out front and without any kind of ridicule or backlash. Military, they should, every branch should be participating in allowing their service members to come forward without any backlash, ridicule, intimidation. And I'd like to see a coordination, a collaboration from all the camps on this to come forward and to start respecting, as Dr. Davis says, the subjective part of this. You know, this is the most important thing because we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about experience, and we need to share these experiences because that's what humanity is. We're all about sharing our experiences and learning from them.
Beautifully said. Linda Noyes, Dr. Bob Davis, Science Bob McGwier. A wonderful show on consciousness tonight. Thank you so much. Coming up next, Dave 101. The NDAA is signed. Where do we go from here, and is it good for the public? We'll be back right after this. Great job, people.
That was fun.
Very good.
That was
Very
fun.
good, everybody. Very good. It was nice integration of the science and all of our experiences. Yeah, I liked it. Great.
A few claps from the audience. There we go.
Oh, great. Cool.
It's wonderful. Wonderful show, guys.
Well, you guys did a great job. Thank you.
We got to introduce Bob. We got to
Kevin, the first one.
We got to introduce Bob Davis to Samantha Mowat.
Oh yeah.
Who's she?
Wow.
Your dream study.
Your dream. It's on command, on demand.
Well, coming from you guys, I take that seriously. I like a phone number, email address, web. No. I got Linda. That's one experiencer enough, I'll tell you. She's wonderful.
No, you need more. You need the more experiencers you have, the better.
Oh, no.
Samantha walked with Dave out into the woods and says, "Dave, look, just be calm. Just be calm, Dave. Turn and look over there, and there's 2 10-foot tall whites standing right in front of Dave." That's who Samantha Mowat is.
She can do it at will?
Yeah.
At will.
Do you have video?
Oh.
Oh no, he was too scared. He took
No, I mean, could you get video of that? Well, if they allow it to be videoed, for one thing. I mean, showing. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to you. I'm not. I shouldn't ask you. But
We'll talk. We'll talk off the
air.
air.
We'll talk.
All right. Where did I go? Oh, I disappeared there for a quick second.
Yeah, we all did. It was all of us. Anyway, look, it was great. I'm gonna go ahead and drop off.
All right. Take care,
thank
guys.
You so much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. All right. There we go. All right. We got to get the news ready here. Hold on. Otherwise, Shirky Poo is going to hang me. Hang me! There you go, Shirky Poo. There we go. And there's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. And what else here? No. Let's see. There's 5. All right, we're ready. We are ready. It's going to be a good one. Oh, that's terrible hair. Terrible hair. Sorry about that. It's staticky out. I'm actually going to have to bring out my snowblower this weekend. I didn't think I would have to, but it's on. Got to fire it up. Bim Jim, how are you, man? What is the new blue thing beside the Buddha? That is my orb. My seeing eye orb. I had the worst pizza for dinner tonight. Shouldn't have done it. Should not have done it. Thurston Howell III, how are you? Thank you to Todd, Cat Chaser ×2, Science Bob and Smithy for the wonderful super chats. And here we go. Let's get some music ready. All right. I'm tired. Tired today. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate you tuning us on in. Thank you for joining us. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to it.
It's time for Dave 101.
All right. The NDA is signed, and the government is now searching for UFOs in the United States. It all came down in a 700 million, billion, trillion, whatever number of gazillion dollar budget that the United States put forward. The only thing holding it back now is whether or not President Joe Biden will sign the bipartisan supported law and budget. He will. You know he will. And there has to be a lot of intrigue regarding the fact that taxpayer dollars in the United States are now going to fund UFOs. We are going to see the public, who actually pays attention to this stuff, literally start to question the sanity of the United States government. We are going to see people question whether or not this is money being spent to actually look for UFOs or to be hidden into other practices that the government does not want their citizens to know about. But whether you like it or not, and whether you're on the fence, like I am, this NDAA being signed is a good thing. I hate to admit that. I don't want to admit that. Because I don't want to trust the government on everything they have covered up for 70 plus years. I don't want to say this is good. I don't want to credit Luis Elizondo. I don't want to credit the work of Chris Mellon, but I have to. Because this is the closest we have ever come to an official disclosure. This is one of those moments that Stephen Bassett has been talking about for every week it was going to happen since 1992. Well, here we are 29 years later, and we are almost there. We have literally rounded third, and we are heading for home. What that home looks like, we have no clue. Now, in this bill, we are going to see the likes of another task force with some acronym come forward. They are going to set up a number of people to study the accounts of not only the military and other government agency sightings, but along with some of the public sightings as well. They want to know what is going on. They want to say, at least at this time, all of the right things. What I didn't like about the bill, and Senator Kristen Gillibrand mentioned this once again, is the threat narrative. What's the threat? Explain to us what the threat is. We've got to get over the threat narrative. If these instances have been happening for hundreds, if not thousands, or tens of thousands of years on this planet, they wouldn't wait until we had our technology to where we were to try and take us over. Last I checked, there has been no alien invasion. Maybe it's coming. Maybe that's the reason why that they are wanting to literally make this a subject that we need to talk about. Could be. What if the United States government got a date on when they, whoever they are arriving? It's interesting, to say the least. And this is only the beginning of it, people. This is only the beginning of what is going on. Except now it's going to be in the public eye. But here's another difficulty that we also have to remember. How much information are they going to tell the public? This is where I grind my teeth on it. This is not an open and transparent bill. There are going to be a lot of secrets that are kept. There are going to be a lot of stories and videos that we will never see. In other words, it almost feels like it's going to be business as usual. How can I say that? This was a good day. Of course it was. It was a very good day and a giant step closer to what we all want, disclosure. I'm leaning more towards a confirmation right now. And I'm very excited to see how this plays out, not only with the media, but the government in general. I want to see what they're going to give us. I want to see what kind of information they're going to keep from us. I want to see if they're going to tell us about the little gray aliens coming from Zeta Reticuli. Are we going to start to get confirmations over the years that maybe SETI actually did find some sounds that count? Or maybe NASA releasing some of their photos that have allegedly been scrubbed, and videos that have been oh so gently edited. The big loss in this, because there's always two sides to everything, all right, the big loss in this is still for the public. The public is not going to get the information that they want. But as negative as that sounds, and it's easy to jump on the bandwagon of negativity, it was a good day. This is good for us. It's going to force other countries, like where I am in Canada, to start talking about this. The Canadian government has been eerily silent on this entire subject, thanks to a media that has not pressed them on the subject. It's going to get more worldwide attention. It tells us the phenomena, whatever the phenomena is very real, and it's going to play a part in what we do as humanity in the future. And realistically, we could sit here and we could talk about Gillibrand, Rubio, Burchett, and others in Washington, D.C. for really playing a big role. But whether you like them or not, a giant thank you from the UFO community has to be pointed towards Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon. Since these gentlemen left the To the Stars Academy, they have been on fire in making people aware. They have traveled to different countries talking about the phenomena. Elizondo has talked to Canada, the United Kingdom, Italy, Australia, and other countries about this subject. Chris Mellon, for all we know, has probably done the same. But the big thing that we are seeing right now is positivity that the entire phenomena is now in play. And hopefully there is no turning back. Hopefully this doesn't end like the 21st century edition of Project Blue Book, where all they find is swamp gas and Venus. No, I think we're actually beyond that. And for me, where I saw the change was a number of months ago when all of a sudden Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon stopped using the terms Russia and China in their vocabulary. Now I remember looking back on it thinking, hot dang, they've upped the ante on this. Because at first it was all about threats. It was all about Russia or China. And in the same sentence saying, well, we know this is non-human. This is exciting times for us in ufology. Whether you're a young gun, an old guard, or somebody brand new to the field learning about it for the first time, we are in some very interesting days. It's going to be very positive for some. It's going to be very negative for others. But it's going to make for some incredible conversation, because there are pieces to this that haven't come into fruition yet. Aliens, extraterrestrials. When do they become part of the focus? Somebody's flying the craft. And if they're drones, somebody's controlling those drones or something. When we start talking extraterrestrials, we are going to open up the idea of getting to the experiencers, contact, abductions, consciousness. It all comes into play. And it's now started. And the fact that this comes on the heels of the very intriguing New York Times article 4 years ago is incredible. The timing is synchronistic that it happens now. I'm taking this as a positive, and I'm somebody who has been very critical of the entire UFO phenomena since the To the Stars Academy came out. And they couldn't tell their head from their ass on what they were doing. But for today, everybody in ufology should be cheering and waving the winning flag, because the checkered flag has never fallen on this community. It never has. It may never again. But this is a big step forward in moving the subject ahead with humanity. Look, there is a long, long road to go. We cannot rest on our laurels saying, we won. This is a battle that's been won. The war is still going on. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, from secret space programs to ET contact to where are they coming from. Does it tie to the paranormal, the cryptid world, consciousness? There are literally hundreds of questions, thousands of questions that still need to be answered. But the good part about it is there is now a budget, and there will be a team that works on this. And it's up to people in this community to continue the pressure to get the stories out, to get the evidence out. Because we just can't stop on a bunch of voting talking heads on their words. We can't stop on their words. We have to keep going. But UFOs are officially on the table. And that, my friends, is a good thing. It's a step forward. It's a step towards positivity. If you're thinking you're going to get something right off the bat, like we got the UFO videos from 4 years ago, that will not happen. You will not learn about your experiences. We don't know what they're going to continue with the cover-up. But all we have to do is keep the pressure on, because we have moved the ball forward. And for right now, that's a nice early Christmas present. And that is your Dave 101. Let's get over to Shirky Poo's news. Here in British Columbia, a dog that went missing has been found 2 weeks later when she was spotted by staff at a ski resort. The owners of Luna, a 3-year-old Jindo dog, launched a search for the canine after she went missing from the Lower Lonsdale area of North Vancouver on November 29th. The owners hired a professional pet searcher and organized volunteer searchers on social media, but despite numerous reports of sightings, they were never able to find her. The family's luck changed, though, on Tuesday when employees at the Grouse Mountain Ski Resort followed paw prints near the Olympic Express chairlift to where Luna was hiding under the load platform. Gordon McNaughton, one of the 4 team members, was able to crawl under the platform to reach her and provided his sweater to keep her warm, the resort said in a statement. Resort officials said employees recognized Luna from the recent social media posts and were able to successfully reunite her with her owners. That is fantastic. That's a long run for that pooch. A long, long run. I've been to both places. Weird one in Texas. As a man who spotted evidence of wild hog activity outside his home decided to check his security camera footage, and man, was he shocked what he saw. Literally dozens of the hairy hogs had visited overnight. Glenn Garner of Siena said he was walking his daughter to the bus stop when he saw the footprints and other evidence that the hogs had visited his yard during the night. I saw a ton of damage, he said. In our front yard, in our neighbor's yard, some of the houses down the street were hit worse than others. Garner said he checked his security footage and expected to see wild hogs, but he was pretty shocked to find out that there were literally 25 to 30 of these pigs rounding around, tearing up the neighborhood. You've seen one hog? Okay, Garner said. Then you see the whole family troop filling in? It's just really bizarre. They move in real quickly, Garner said, looking back at our camera. They were in our yard for less than a minute. Sienna's homeowner association said wild hogs coming down the banks of the Brazos River have become a seasonal problem for local neighbors. It's Texas. Why haven't you shot them yet? I don't care if you're in the NOA. Get rid of them. The company Kraft is offering to pony up $20 for dessert supplies to help customers who are unable to make cheesecake due to shortages of Philadelphia cream cheese. The company set up a special website at which the first 18,000 people to register on Friday or Saturday will be able to apply for a $20 reimbursement for their dessert purchases. The promotion is designed to ease consumers' concerns about shortages of Kraft's Philadelphia cream cheese, which has been quickly vanishing from the shelves amid COVID-19. Kraft Heinz, which produces the Philadelphia brand, said it has been in demand and seen the spike for several products, and that it had to ship 35% more than last year. As more people continue to eat breakfast at home and use cream cheese as an ingredient in easy desserts, we expect this trend to continue, the company said, with big smiles on their face, knowing that they were kicking ass on the profit side due to cream cheese. Bagel shop owners say suppliers tell them that the supply chain issues also impact the shortage, with some citing lack of containers and corrugated boxes used to ship the cream cheese to large customers such as supermarkets and bagel shops. Other theories have surfaced as well, including labor shortages at some plants and not enough truck drivers. Some observers say many consumers, schmears are just too thick. You can never be too thick on the cream cheese. That's just BS right there. All right, let's continue on. Had Clifford Schorer known that he had been running late for a friend's retirement party, he would have never stumbled across a 500-year-old masterpiece drawing that has the art world aflutter. It is now anticipated the work, The Virgin and Child with a Flower on a Glassy Bank by Renaissance star Albrecht Dürer, could make Schorer, an entrepreneur from Boston, a very wealthy man. This drawing, worth $50 million. He paid $30 for it at a garage sale, people. This is the stuff that never happens to us. Ever. And finally tonight, a sinister Florida woman admitted to poisoning her longtime boyfriend by spiking his lemonade with antipsychotic medication because he wouldn't stop talking. 54-year-old Alvis Lorraine Parrish yelled to deputies last week from the front porch of her Jacksonville home, flatly confessing to lacing her partner's drink with Seroquel, according to the arrest report. Yeah, I did it because he wouldn't shut the F up, Parrish said, adding that she called authorities after giving the man just enough of the drug to quiet him down, but less than a lethal amount. She's off to jail. Thank you so much to everybody playing to the thought of the day. Dr. Bob Davis, Linda Noyes, Science Bob, hanging on out. It was a good night indeed. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal bringing it down with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody sitting at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everybody in our chat room tonight on YouTube, LGAP, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That's good stuff. Nice show. Hey, Fabster, thank you for that awesome super chat. Appreciate that. Woo! Do 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 do. My God, I just updated this computer last week. Caused me ruffles. Ruffles! Now it wants it done again. All right, let's close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move that over there. Be with you guys in 2 seconds. That's all I want. Perfect. It's good times, people. Good times. Brandy Phillips, how are you? Run and can on smooth curry with the pops. I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chad Smith singing. He is the podcast version of Wayne Newton. That's truth right there, people. Podcast version of Wayne Newton. Lynn is not hugging Samantha Mowat. I'll bring Sam on sometime next year. We wanted to get Sam a little bit more committed to the show and doing her. She has an amazing connection with Lynn, and it just made sense to make her a monthly guest with Lynn, considering I already have enough. So that's why Samantha's on there. But yeah, we'll continue to bring Samantha on for sure. Hairless Primate, what's happening? All right. That is done right there. Oob to Joe's Maine. He's got uranium. Boy, those levels were hot. Let's bring that down a little bit. shall we? Let's normalize to 88%, please. All right, let's get this thing started, shall we? Let us edit. 1 second. I'm going to clean this up first. Then clean that up there. And then 12, 16. Ten years ago today, that I saw Guns N' Roses play for the first time. And Bumblefoot was on stage with them. I know it's not an exciting anniversary for you guys, but it is for me. And on the 13th, it was 10 years ago that I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes. Mm-hmm. That's how we roll around here. All right, there's the music right there. Should be right here. Horns up, let's rock. Let's get the radio sides. There we go. There's that one there. That one right there. It's way too loud tonight. Way too loud. Give me 2 seconds here. SOR 1. Let's see here. Can I elaborate on the angel of death? Yes, I saw the angel of death's eyes in my mother's eyes 10 years and 4 days ago. Now, I wasn't in the pit on that first show. I saw GNR. Nicola, I agree with you. How about that? I agree with you. Here we go with the second half hour of. That's good right there. I'm finished updating now. Oh, this is SOR 2. No, it wasn't a Grim Reaper type of thing. It was like a real positive type of energy. And it was scary, it was eerie, but not in a horror type of way, but more so in a reality type of way. That was what was intimidating of it all. Sandra Webb, you are blocked. Because I don't know what that spamming is with that crap, but it's been going on for like a week and a half. All right, so what is this? Okay, there's it's going to be like right there. I believe. Yep, right there. And so this should be right about here. About there. Perfect. I never saw him. I only saw his eyes. In my mother's eyes. And when I channeled him a couple hours later, that's where he talked through me. And that's where shit immediately got real. Where's the end of this one? The beginning should be right around here. Where's the beginning? It's not the beginning. I think I cut the beginning off. No, I did not. Maybe I did. Right there. The eyes, my mother has beautiful blue eyes. And the eyes of this in my mother's eyes had changed my mother's eyes from beautiful blue to jet black with white pupils. And that's what we were looking at. And that's what scared me. Steam trademark. You can confirm I'm alive tomorrow, which is now today. When you were talking to Lou the other day, did he give you any indication what might be coming now that it's passed? No, the only thing he said is the work is now getting going. Now the real work begins. Vanner, serious question. Could psychic ability rub off on people? So if we shook hands, could you transfer the ability for me to see the phenomena? I don't think it transfers like that. I think when you were around, this is my opinion of it, okay? when you are around people who are connected, okay, and I've noticed this with myself, when you're around people who are connected, it totally um, amplifies your abilities wherever they're hidden, and wherever they are stored in your mind. And that's what I've noticed. Some people see nothing. It depends. Like I had a buddy of mine never saw anything. I think personally, deep down, he maybe didn't want to see anything, but that's just me right there. That's my opinion. I think that if you were to hang out with, say, one really strong person or a couple of medium type people, not mediums, but medium understanding of it, I think it would rub off on you. But the Vanner Smith, the other thing is, like, what do you want to experience? Right? I used to believe that it was all about putting the intention out there, but I have a feeling that they, whomever they are the ones who control the experience. And whether or not they, whomever they are, have the ability to give that experience to you. I could be wrong. That's just the way it feels at times. Did I miss any questions? Yeah, Apollo 11, you're exactly right. There's a lot of people out there who, even though they say they want an experience, they resist the experience as well. And they might not even know they're doing it subconsciously. You're very right on that, dude. No, I'll never have Stephen Greer on the show. I have zero interest in Stephen Greer. I tried to get him on the show a few years ago. He asked me for money on whether or not he was being paid. He wanted to know the breakdown of our audience by age and category. And then he wanted me to supply a list of questions that he could prepare for. And I said no. Vanner Smith, Dave, why do you think that you have had a lot of experience? I have no idea. Drives me nuts. I sure as hell know if I didn't have experiences, I wouldn't be doing this show. I'd still probably be living my happily boring life. Might even have my best friend still. Who knows? Friends, I should say. I don't know. But they chose me. For whatever reason, they chose me. Gorgeous Jean Beckett, how are you? Dirty Filth, what are you still doing awake? I have not connected with my spirit guides lately. Chad Smith, what did you get? Coffee mug with the UFO and the gas pump. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see who's communicating with me on Facebook here, because I can't see. Be right there. Oh, Jeff Perry, how are you? Park Parker, good to see you. Mystics Walk, how are you? This is one of the men I listen to right there. Eugene Braxton. Eugene is brilliant when it comes to this. He thinks like a... Don't hit me for saying this, Gene, but he literally thinks like a wizard, almost like a Yoda type of person. He is just so profound and direct with his words. And when you speak to Eugene, he sits back and he thinks about every word you're saying. It's Eugene is one of the most important people in my SOR career. He really is. And one of the brightest individuals I have ever had the pleasure of chatting with. Do I think it was a calling? Yes and no. Do I regret it? No. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Would I do it again? Probably not. And it's not because it isn't fun or anything like that. It's there's a lot about these communities that don't make it fun. And that's the truth of it. Skip to my Lou. Thank you for the photo. It's my friend right there, Eugene Braxton. Fapperino, I did not forget you. I actually said right off the bat when you arrived, hi, Fappy Poo. Could never forget you. Vanner, always feel free to ask any questions, man. I promise you I'll always do my best to answer them. Always. Hey, Dirty Filth. Are you thinking what I'm thinking about Fappy Poo? Samantha Lee Treasure. Tomorrow night. What the hell are we talking about? Consciousness, alternative states of it. Currently lives in South Korea. Oh, cool. This is going to be fun. Out of body experiences. Oh, that's going to be a great show tomorrow night. Great show. Oh, you mean that time I brought you and Grandma Rose on? That was a beautiful, beautiful moment for me. It was. Thurston Howell III. Have you ever had any marks or symbols left on your body after an experience? The only time I've ever had anything like that was when I had the 2 scratches on my back that were about 4 inches long. And there were 2 of them. They were about an inch apart. And it looked like a cat had stutter scratched on my back. And I meant to take a photograph of it, but I had to pee. Noticed them in the morning. And then I went to the sink, washed my hands, and then walked into the kitchen for breakfast. Then I got caught up doing a bunch of other stuff. And 4 hours later, remembered that I hadn't taken that photo. So I walked back to my bathroom to take the photo of the scratches, and they were completely gone. No scarring, no nothing. It was the weirdest thing. Like, why didn't I take pictures of those scratches? I mean, it doesn't make sense at all. And then to go back and finally remember and notice that they had disappeared, it just one of those idiotic moments that drives me up a wall. Where did they go? Why did they disappear? Were they real? Did I actually see it? Lynn, Dave, well, I'm very happy SOR exists. It opened my eyes a lot. Thank you for doing what you do. Much appreciate you, Lynn. Brazelhoff, haven't heard from Demi in a few minutes, eh? Told you. Speaking of Fitbit tracking, why aren't more researchers looking into things like these? Isn't telemetry hard to fake versus other things? That's a Science Bob question. And I am pushing Bob to take the lead on that. I have a feeling there's something there. I really do. I really, really do. And I think it's amazing. I do. Where do I put this here? Trying to do something here. No. There we go. That's kind of cool. That's actually really cool. I love our new logo. Vincent did an amazing job with it. Hold on. Pretty cool resemblance. If anybody has any questions for El Ovni Volador while I am here, looking at my twin, as I am the inspiration for the logo, you let me know. It has been a while since I've been here. What are you sons of bitches been up to? If you have not bought my t-shirt, you are a jabroni. El Ovni Volador, where did you come from? And when did you meet Dave Scott? I met Dave Scott in 2020. He is a wimp Canadian. Calls himself a fighter. He couldn't hit himself out of a wet paper bag. Somebody has to run this show properly. Do not insult me by calling me Dave. I am not Espanol. I only wrestle in the lucha libre. Nobody knows my identity. Not a single person on this planet. Not even my own mother. I'd flick you and you'd go flying. Me and the flat-headed monster of FAP, nobody can touch us in the tag team. We are champions among champions, men among men. Such a handsome logo. Beautiful. That's right, Thurston. Do you have any questions for the great El Ovni Volador? Dave is not here, Vanner Smith. He is outside the studio, cowering in a corner because of the fear he has for El Ovni Volador. Hideous little man. I am everything that Chad Smith dreams he could be. Why did you steal Dave's glasses? What glasses? I'm not wearing any glasses. Crazy Lynn LeBlanc. Foolish. Making such gestures. I'm not wearing any glasses. I don't even know what you're talking about. There is only one shirt on this godforsaken store that you should be purchasing, and that is of me, El Ovni Volador. That's the only shirt you need to buy. Look how beautiful that is. The sign of a true champion. A winner. You can feel like me too. A winner. Successful. All the ladies want me. All the men want to be me. And all you got to do is buy my shirt to feel that happening. Braziloff, if you were here, I would superplex you off the top rope. Davira, Sir Sexy Volador, yes, you know what you're talking about, you sinful little lady. Do you know if Dave's carpet matches his drapes? I don't know. I would never ask to look there. Shame. Oh my. Will you submit? Will Ovni will submit you with the Taiwanese finger pull of death? You can't even speak to me. You don't even look at me. Okay? You haven't. What have you earned? You play a reverse headstock guitar. You're the only guy who's ever canceled a match on me because you hurt your fingers on a string, on a size 9 guitar string. You were chicken. You didn't want to step into the squared circle with me. Brazelhoff. Taiwanese finger pull of death. I pull your finger, all you're going to do is rip one. Thurston, El Ovni, will you put in a camel woo clutch, break your ass and make you humble? Absolutely. Anybody comes near me, they will get a piece of that camel woo clutch. Buy my t-shirt. I love the Volador. You guys are terrible. Terrible people. Spit on you. Puh! That's right. That Thomas Fessler. Smack him around. Thomas Fessler. He doesn't want any of this. He doesn't want that. Joe and Ben from UFO Garage. I could snap them with my finger just. They'll have no idea what hit them. Parker, I would take your Scottish West Highland Terrier and I'd poke it in the eyes. Then I'd grab it by its jaw and squeeze and then bite its ear, just like Mike Tyson did to Evander Holyfield. That puppy would go screaming right out of the ring and not even know what hit him. I'll take on that dog, Parker. That little wiener dog that you have. Suplex the hell out of it. El Georgie is El Wimpy. That's what it is. Look at that, Dave Scott. He even had to create a logo that looked like me because he wants to be me so bad. Hey, everybody. Tomorrow night on the show, we are going to have Samantha Treasure talking about out-of-body experiences, alternative states of consciousness. Yeah, it's going to be a cool show. Sorry, I had to take a bathroom break. Oh, hey, Chad Smith. What's happening? There was someone else in this room. What the hell are you talking about, Triple Ack? Weird shit happens here at the studio. Can never control what happens here. That's the way it is. Well, as long as you and Fap had it under control, man, it's all that matters. Hopefully nothing bad happened. What experience? Weird. What other guy, Fap? He never sends me the link, Chad Smith. Interesting stories. Let's save it for tomorrow night. I got to get going to bed here because I do have to wake up in the morning and work. I got a 1-day shift before 2 off. Send it to my other one, man. I can't grab it off of StreamYard here. Oh, you just moved to... Who moved to Cowichan Lake? Hold on. Park. Dude, watch out for the Sasquatch there, man. Lots of Sasquatch sightings and UFO sightings around there. Well, why would you post it? Erase the damn thing. Spooky Morales. It's time to warm up. Time to warm up that trumpet. Big thank you to Science Bob, Smithy, Cat Chaser ×2, Todd, and Fapster. And then this weekend, I will be firing up my snowblower to make sure that there is a lake monster in Lake Cowichan. Absolutely. There's also one up in Cameron Lake on the way to Port Alberni. I used to fish in that lake. Didn't realize there was a sea monster in there at that time. So, tomorrow night, Samantha Treasure, out-of-body experiences. That's some solid woo booked by our team to make sure that we get things going. And Spooky Morales, it's time for you to send us home, man. Good night.